Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Pirates, Summon Heroes and Build the Strongest Family. Chapter 51. Now, there is still 1 month left until the Big Mom Tea Party is held. In the New World, Plank is already planning how to give Big Mom an unforgettable gift at the tea party. In the Grand Line, the Fishman Island, located 10,000 meters under the sea, also welcomed a strange mermaid at this time. Tide summoning Sharame Nami. Hey, young mermaid, this is not the place you should be. At the entrance of the poor and chaotic Fishman Street, several Fishman gangsters stared at the beautiful Tidikalar Samaheim Nami and said a warning. Fishman Street is the poorest and most chaotic place on the Fishman Island. Most of the Fishmen have been persecuted by humans. This is a real lawless zone. Even Neptune, the king of the Fishman Island, seems to have abandoned this place intentionally. There are 100,000 fishmen living in Fishman Street. The total number of residents of the Fishman Island is only 5 million. 1/50th of the population. The Fishman Island King Neptune is completely invisible. No one will believe it. It's just that those 100,000 citizens, composed of orphans, refugees and gangsters, have no meaning for Neptune to rule at all. Fishman Street is a garbage dump left intentionally by Neptune. But what Nami wants is this garbage dump. No one wants to live in darkness forever, and no one wants to be a member of the garbage heap forever. Have you ever heard the singing of the sea? Nami said softly, and several water prisons appeared quietly as she spoke, tightly restraining the gangsters from Fishman Street. Ruling and transforming Fishman Street is Nami's first step to becoming the queen of the Fishman Island. That day, countless waves rolled up in Fishman Street. You're just a mermaid, what do you want to do? This is Fishman Street, not Fishman Bay, nor Dragon Palace City. You are not welcome here. He assassinated Princess Otahime a few years ago, stole a large amount of poison, and gained great fame in Fishman Street. Hodi Jones, who is also the leader of the gangsters in Fishman Street, said fiercely to Nami, the Tidikalar Sharmaid. Mermen are a noble race even in the Fishman Island. In the Fishman Island, the more powerful the people, the higher they live and the closer they are to the sun. And Fishman Street is almost at the bottom of the Fishman Island. Here, you can't see any sunshine all year round. This is the place that was neglected and abandoned by the Dragon Palace Kingdom. No, I hear people here crying. They need me. Nami still had a soft smile on her face and said firmly. Want to come join me? I will lead all fishmen to a bright future. Around Nami, a large number of fishmen gangsters who tried to drive Nami away were knocked to the ground by the turbulent water. Bright future, are you trying to coexist with humans like that naive and stupid person like Princess Otahime? Are you kidding me? Why do you think there are so many fishmen here? Most of the fishmen here have been persecuted by humans and became orphans. Hodi Jones opened his mouth wide, revealing his sharp fangs. With incomparable hatred in his eyes, he roared angrily. We are the future chosen by God and given power in order to punish mankind. After Hodi Jones finished speaking, he directly stuffed a poison into his mouth. Then, together with the gangster leader Dosen, Gio and others who followed behind him, they rushed towards Nami, the Tidecaller Shark Princess. Hodi Jones and others, while hating human beings, will never show mercy to their compatriots. This is Fishman Street, where there is no sunshine all year round. Fishman Street without any law and order. Then, an extremely turbulent tide swept away all the evil in Fishman Street without mercy. The tide dissipated, and countless murlocs were scattered all over the place due to the impact of the angry waves. Nami stood silently in front of Hodi Jones and others, and said in a deep voice. It seems that your power is not enough to become the future. However, I have never thought of letting go of those pirates who wantonly catch fishermen on the Fishman Island. Want to come join me? First, maybe we can try to overthrow the Dragon Palace Kingdom. Then, revolutionize the Fishman Island. Tide Summoner Nami extended her right hand to Hodi Jones and others. Want to overthrow the Ryugu Kingdom and take charge of the Fishman Island. Tidikalar Sharakaim Nami needs the power of other fishmen. A king who is not recognized by his people has no meaning. Fishman Street, the garbage dump that King Neptune intentionally left alone, will become the first base for Tidikalar Nami to rule the Fishman Island. These fishmen who live in the darkness, while they hate humans. I have never had a good impression of Neptune, the aloof king of the Dragon Palace Kingdom. Ryugu Castle is located at the top of the Fishman Island. It is built with large coral reefs and shellfish. It enjoys the warmth of the sun all year round. The only problem is that Dragon Palace City is too high. It's so high that it's completely separated from all the Murloc cities. Does the high-ranking king in Dragon Palace City really care about the lives of the fish people at the bottom? No one knows the answer. After Hodi Jones and others were easily knocked down by Nami, their eyes widened when they heard Nami's words, and then they lowered their heads silently. What young Hodi Jones thinks about most now is revenge on mankind. As for overthrowing the Dragon Palace Kingdom and ruling the Fishman Island, the current Hodi Jones is far from having such ambitions. He is too weak now. In other words, while the Fishman tribe's natural wrist strength is 10 times higher than that of ordinary humans. Maybe it's limited by population size, maybe it's limited by body genes. The probability of the emergence of a top powerhouse is much lower than that of humans. Young Hodi Jones once worshipped the strong fishmen such as the dragon and Jinbei. And surrendering to a powerful mermaid who has the ambition to overthrow the Dragon Palace Kingdom and completely change the Fishman Island is not completely difficult to accept. Fishman Street, which has been in darkness all year round, seemed to have a real dawn at this moment. But Titikalar Sherakim Nami knows very well that in order to truly overthrow the Ryugu Kingdom and seize the hegemony of the Fishman Island, just controlling the Fishman Street is not enough. She needs enough achievements and fame, and she must find a way to gain the support of Jinbei, the strongest man in the Fishman Island today. Jinbei, the sea hero, has a huge reputation in the Fishman Island. Nami is on the move. In the kingdom of Grindle in the first half of the Grand Line, Swain, Darius and others also started taking action. On how to become the king of a country in the world of pirates. Doflamingo and Crocodile stealing the country gave Duke, Swain and others the best theoretical guidance. Well, the main thing is that it has to be strong enough. In the royal palace of Grendel, Darius, the hand of Noxus, opened the palace door with an axe. Behind Darius, the flying axe in Draven's hand was constantly spinning, ready to take off the enemy's head at any time. Swain limped and walked into the main hall of the royal palace of Grendel step by step, then stretched out the devil's hand. He directly pulled the fat king of Grendel, who was slumped on the throne, right in front of him. What are you going to do? I am the king of Columbia. The king of Grendel continued to struggle in Swain's hands, while trying to threaten Swain and others. In the world of pirates, kings and nobles are aloof, and even the most vicious pirates rarely attack the king directly. After all, maintaining the sacred authority and inviolability of the king is the common obligation of all feudal monarchies. Then, with a click, Swain broke the neck of the king of Grendel. You don't deserve to sit on that throne at all. You are not worthy of being a king at all, Swain said coldly. There will only be one king in this world, and the whole world will be his kingdom. Swain threw away the body of King Grendel, and then placed it under the throne. Using his demonic power, he directly condensed a bloody throne. From this moment on, the Noxus Empire was quietly established in the world of One Piece. Swain is the apparent ruler of the Noxus Empire, the first consul of the Noxus Empire. Well, the other pirates might care about the reaction of the other kingdoms after directly killing the king of Gondo. But Swain and others never cared. Because they are Noxus. Since its establishment, Noxus has been directly opposed to almost all kingdoms. Noxus is unrivaled, and its conquests and expansion will never stop. Of course, the main reason is that the Kingdom of Columbia is not a member of the world government. Directly overthrowing a world government member country is not as easy as imagined. Swain and others are not celestial dragons, nor do they have the time to plan and instigate the citizens to rebel as long as Crocodile. The destruction of countries that are not members of the world government and the death of their kings are what the world government is happy to see. Without highlighting the dangers of non-world government member countries on this sea, how can world government firmly control the other world government member countries? Why do we continue to collect heavenly gold from other world government member countries and constantly weaken the national power of other kingdoms? Happiness depends on comparison. As for the reaction of the civilian nobles of the Kingdom of Columbia after killing the King of Columbia. Sorry, there are no so-called nobles in the Kingdom of Columbus now. Almost all the nobles followed King Grindle into hell. And all the wealth they have, except for leaving part of it to fund the development of the Noxus Empire. The rest of the wealth was dedicated to Duke and civilians. The reputation of Swain and others as heroes during this period was not for nothing. The common people of the Kingdom of Columbia have long been tired of the corrupt rule of the King of Columbia. As a non-world government country with an extremely remote geographical location and few pirate invasions, the civilians of the Kingdom of Columbia do not live any more comfortably than the civilians of those countries that are members of the world government. Human greed is never satisfied by giving enough. If there is no heavenly gold, there will be earthly gold, king's gold and other exorbitant taxes and miscellaneous taxes. In the pirate world where personal force can destroy the world, the lives of ordinary civilians are often more painful and desperate. Because they have no ability to resist the rulers who control powerful force. Most of the kings and rulers in the pirate world are idiots who rely on their own power to do whatever they want. But now, the Noxian Empire is established. There is no fundamental difference between the Noxian Empire and the other kingdoms. It's all about power. In other words, in this world, there is never absolute equality, especially in the world of pirates where individual combat power is extremely disparate. But at least, in Noxus, there are two supreme iron rules that treat all citizens equally. First, all citizens must abide by the laws of the Noxus Empire. Anyone who violates the laws will be severely punished. Second, everyone, regardless of status, background, race or gender, the capable will be on top, the weak will be on the bottom, strength and merit determine everything, military merit will be knighted. Strict laws gave Noxus the peace and dignity of all citizens. Noxus, where ability is paramount, gives everyone a relatively fair and just starting point. The most important thing is that the Noxus Empire, for the first time in the pirate world, faced everyone in the pirate world and released a big killer like the military lord. As long as you are willing to join the Noxus Empire and make meritorious service to the Noxus Empire, you will be able to get everything you deserve. This is true fairness and justice. Justice is just a concept, and fair interests that treat everyone equally are the real reality. The Noxian Empire was destined to rise. At this time, Duke looked at the sudden increase in wealth in the system panel, and his face burst into laughter. What is true happiness? Duke said that when people sit at home and money comes from the sky, this is real happiness. The King of Columbus and countless nobles directly added up to 22.1 billion worth of wealth to Duke. Although the Kingdom of Columbus is poor and backward, it still has a vast territory and a population of millions. Let the kings and nobles draw enough blood from the common people. In the first half of the Grand Line, there is a superpower like Alabasta with a population of nearly 100 million and a standing army of 600,000. But most of the countries in One Piece are relatively limited in terms of land and population. Duke washed his hands carefully, and then after sacrificing the dead king of Grindle and the nobles, he pressed the lottery button heavily. System, give me 3 S-level draws first. The Kingdom of Grindle has increased Duke's wealth by 22.1 billion, but coupled with the wealth that Duke's other heroes and industries continue to provide him, Duke's current wealth exceeds 23 billion. Consuming 1 billion wealth values, congratulations to host for winning an S-level prize and equipment redemption. Consumption of 1 billion wealth values, congratulations to host for winning the A-level prize and equipping the Thorns vest. Consumption of 1 billion wealth points, congratulations to host for winning the S-level prize and equipping the Banshee Veil. It's all equipment, not a single hero. Is there another A-level equipment? What's the draw here? This King of Columbus is completely incompetent. Duke frowned slightly as he looked at the 3 prizes he had drawn. He suddenly realized a problem. That is, the number of heroes in the Alliance seems to be limited. Moreover, many heroes may require SS level or higher level draws to be possible. However, Duke seems to be able to directly hold an SS level lottery now. Moreover, as the heroes under his command develop and grow, will he gain more and more wealth? That's no problem. If you don't hit once, won't it be over if you draw a few more times? If you have money, you will be willful. Thinking of this, Duke calmly washed his hands again, and then directly pressed the lottery button. System, give me an SS level lottery directly. Consuming 20 billion wealth values, congratulations to host for winning the S+ level prize, Hero Future Guardian Jace. Future Guardian Jace. Grade 1. Strength, B+. Physique, B+. Agility, B. Spirit, B. Potential, S+. Equipment owned, none. Possess abilities: Hextech Capacitor, Sky Leap, Electric Shock, Mercury Cannon, Mercury Hammer, etc. Overall rating, B+. As a genius inventor from Piltover, Jess possesses unimaginable wisdom and talent. He is the source of all Hextech, the discoverer of Hextech, and the creator of Hextech. His inventions and creations are destined to lead the future. Future Guardian Jace, and Hex Technology. Duke looked at Jace, who had been drawn, and his eyes shone slightly. Winning the S+ prize in the SS level lottery did not disappoint Duke, but made him even more excited. In other words, in Duke's eyes, Jace is even more important than an ordinary hero with SS level potential. The Noxian Empire was successfully established. But Duke relied on his plan to print and issue his own currency after the establishment of the Noxus Empire, and then directly recharge the system. It succeeded, but it also failed. After the Noxian Empire was established, Duke hurriedly asked Swain and others to issue Noden dollars in the Noxus Empire, equal to Bailey's. Then, they rushed to make a batch of tens of billions, hundreds of billions, and trillions of Nuiwan in denominations, hoping to recharge the system. Well, although banknotes with denominations of tens of billions, trillions, and trillions may be a slight exaggeration. But, anyway, we are trying to pluck out the wool of the system. You can't always be careful when dreaming, right? The denomination of Tiandi Bank is often in the trillions. If he really wanted to win over the system, Duke wouldn't mind at all if the Imperial Bank of Noxus directly competed with the Bank of Heaven and Earth and specially printed some trillion-dollar banknotes for recharge. Then, I woke up from the dream. Small denominations can be officially endorsed by the Noxus Empire. At the same time, compared with Bailey, Nuiwan can buy the daily necessities that residents want at the same price, and the system recognizes its value. As for those Nuiwan with denominations of tens of billions, trillions, and trillions, the system said that their wool does not seem to be so easy to collect. Only items of sufficient value, or banknotes that can purchase enough production materials, are the wealth recognized by the system. All money, even gold, is just a general equivalent agreed upon by people. Real wealth, real value, never lies in those paper money and gold. It is about those means of production that are difficult to obtain or non-renewable, as well as the countless real materials created due to the growth of productivity. This is the essence of wealth. It is also a wealth truly recognized by the system. And want to get huge wealth. Technology is the primary productive force. Every improvement in productivity represents an exponential increase in wealth. Duke made a small mistake earlier. The establishment of a large number of water, electricity and other factories will indeed bring a steady stream of wealth to Duke in the future. The large amount of money spent every month to invest in those water and electricity plants is completely worth it to Duke. But the problem is that Duke didn't think of it. The ordinary people in the pirate world are really, really poor. Many places are so poor that even though Duke worked hard to invest in water and electricity factories, they brought them convenient and fast water and electricity. But in order to save hundreds or even thousands of Baileys every month, many poor civilians. I would rather fetch water, burn firewood, and go to bed early at night than use more water and electricity. Well, it's almost the same as Duke's previous life in the 1970s and 1980s, not even as good as Duke's previous life in the 1970s and 1980s. There is electricity and gas, so if you don't use it, just play. This made Duke feel a little uncomfortable. He built water and electricity plants all over West Blue to make money, not to let them gather dust and rust locally. However, ordinary people in West Blue really have no money. It's not that they don't want to use convenient and fast water and electricity, but that civilians in some places, they are so poor that they can only choose to risk their lives by going out to sea as pirates. You still ask them to pay extra for water and electricity. Duke's farming career in West Blue has been a bit bumpy. Well, the Valoran lottery and the wine made based on the wine recipe provided by Grogus are selling very well. But how does the money from selling liquor and lottery tickets compare with selling water, electricity and other livelihood industries? Although it is all money, there is no distinction between high and low. But what Duke wanted was never just money. Otherwise, send all the heroes to plunder the world. Duke's current wealth can at least be multiplied several times. Duke doesn't like fishing for nothing. Life is hard enough for ordinary people in the pirate world. This is not Duke's fault. But at least Duke doesn't want to bring more disasters to ordinary people. If possible, Duke wants to be a good person. The lottery industry and the alcohol industry, to a certain extent, do not have much significance for the growth of social wealth. They do not produce wealth, they are just transporters of wealth. Duke wants to make money and gain more wealth. But I don't want to completely abandon my morals and beliefs in order to gain wealth. Well, except for life and death situations. So, in order to find ways to make more money and collect more wealth. Even if we work hard to build water and electricity factories in various places, we must still find ways to increase productivity. Let the common people of the entire West Blue achieve common prosperity, or at least some people become rich first. Are there such good capitalists in this world? The saint almost cried when he heard this. Quote, Duke wanted to cry but had no tears, but in order to earn more wealth in the future. Duke felt that it would not be a bad thing to first find a way to slightly increase the productivity of the pirate world. Only if industry still has productivity can it truly bring wealth to the entire world. If possible, Duke wouldn't mind slightly transforming this deformed world. Technology is enough to change the world. Behind Duke, future guardian Jace bowed his head slightly and said in a deep voice. For a better tomorrow. Tomorrow may be wonderful. But Duke is short of money today. All the wealth collected from the kingdom of Grindle turned into 3 pieces of equipment and Jace. Among the 3 pieces of equipment, Duke thought about it and directly equipped Nami, the auxiliary equipment of redemption. The auxiliary equipment is for the auxiliary, there is nothing wrong with it. As for the Thorn's vest, Duke directly equipped it on Gangplank. I've all been equipped with a piece of fanatic armor, and I'll get a giant belt from now on. There seems to be no problem if Gangplank is given an anti-armor directly. After all, in the real world, staying alive is far more important than output. Duke naturally had no other choice but to install the Banshee Veil, an anti-sneak attack weapon, on himself. In the world of pirates, Devil Fruit has all kinds of strange abilities, and Duke doesn't want to fall into an ability that can be called a bug like the childlike fruit. The creation of West Blue's numerous water and electricity plants, as well as the creation of other businesses, required a large investment of money. The money earned from Valoran lottery and Valoran drinks, after deducting operating expenses and support for factory construction, there is not much wealth left every month. If Plank, Zed and others hadn't contributed some wealth to Duke from time to time, Duke felt that he might have become the world's poorest behind-the-scenes controller. I, Duke, the High King of the Noxus Empire, the mastermind behind the Gangplank pirates. The master of Shadow Stream, the chairman of Shunfang Shipping. The future protector of the Fishman Island, the godfather of the Valoran family, is looking for someone to pay. Of course no one will pay for the money. Duke could only slightly urge Vladimir to improve his strength as soon as possible. Then go find Gecko Moria, the fat guy, and seize Captain John's treasure. Today, Vladimir has become a blood demon in the first half of the Grand Line, with a bounty of up to 180 million. And the A-level combat power is comparable to the Naval Headquarters Elite Vice Admiral. Known as another West Blue supernova after Plank. Of course, no one really thinks that the blood demon Vladimir can become a world-shaking pirate like Gangplank. Vladimir will not trouble Gecko Moria until he reaches level 9 and has the combat power of A+ normal Shichibukai level 1. And Jace began to give full play to his intelligence under Duke's command. Hex flying doors, hex firearms, etc. are enough to change the world. But Duke doesn't need any of these now. Duke has no shortage of weapons now. And with the current strength of the Valoran family, once the Hex Flying Gate is built, the world government and the Celestial Dragons will probably have to find a way to annex the Valoran family immediately. He firmly controls Hex's flying door technology in his hands. The technology of the pirate world is actually not backward, in some aspects, it is extremely powerful. However, the world government has actually been deliberately suppressing the technological development of the pirate world. World government does not need those countries with advanced technology and powerful strength. The countries that join the world government are all powerful and have convenient transportation, so they can easily exchange supplies. So how can the world government protect you? How else to collect a lot of heavenly gold? Vegapunk, the strongest scientist in the pirate world, is nominally strictly protected by the world government. In fact, what is the difference between it and imprisonment? In short, the technology of the pirate world can be developed, but it must be technology that belongs to the world government. Of course, the most important reason is that it would be nice to modify some hex guns. But building a pair of hex flying doors is really, really expensive. The construction cost of a pair of hex flying doors is conservatively estimated at 200 billion. Well, it's not much more expensive than some of the large cross-sea bridges built by Blue Star in its previous life. Technology is the primary productive force, but many technologies cost money. Is it worth it? Definitely worth it. After all, rapid transmission across space is priceless in terms of both commercial and strategic value. Made. Hehe. Duke decisively gave up the idea of building the hex flying gate. There are really 200 billion. I will directly come to the SS level lottery 10 times. Isn't it delicious? What kind of hex-tech flying door are you building? Hex technology is too high-end and too expensive. Duke is not needed at the moment. But those seemingly ordinary high-efficiency cement, high-efficiency fertilizers, and various living factory technologies. Duke felt that Jace should work harder in these areas. If you want to be rich, you must build roads first. If you want to be stable, you must farm. Grab it with both hands, use both hands hard. Duke feels that there are great opportunities to make money in the future. As for the initial investment, Duke said that everything is for a better tomorrow. Only by giving up can you gain. The Valoran family's business in West Blue is expanding, and the number of employees attached to the Valoran family, or the Valoran Chamber of Commerce, is also increasing. The construction and maintenance of water and electricity plants require a large number of workers, and the construction of cement plants, fertilizer plants, and other factory roads requires even more workers. Most of the profits from the Valoran lottery, Valoran wine, and other industries of the Valoran Chamber of Commerce are invested in these factories. But the entire West Blue has also become somewhat prosperous because of the establishment of these factories. At least, with the Valoran Chamber of Commerce providing a large number of jobs for countless civilians in West Blue, the number of pirates going to sea in West Blue has inexplicably decreased a lot. How many people are willing to risk encountering waves, ferocious beasts, and marine pursuits at any time to become pirates if they can live a stable life? In the world of One Piece, there are only a very small number of people who truly dream of becoming the Pirate King. Dreams are important, but having enough food is the real reality. The influence of the Valoran family in West Blue is gradually expanding, and many local chambers of commerce in West Blue have been greatly affected by the expansion of the Valoran Chamber of Commerce. Especially the West Blue Local Chamber of Commerce, which is involved in the shipping industry and the beverage industry. No one in West Blue dares to intercept the ships raiding the Valoran Chamber of Commerce. As for the local wines in West Blue, none of them can compare with the countless wines provided by Gragas. West Blue, in a mansion, a large number of chamber presidents who were impacted by the Valoran Chamber of Commerce gathered together. This can't go on like this. If this continues, we will all go bankrupt. With a fat belly and a fat head, Jim Volt, the president of West Blue's largest liquor merchant association, said angrily. The Valoran Chamber of Commerce must be sanctioned. West Blue's beverage industry is the industry most affected by the Valoran Chamber of Commerce. And as the countless fine wines of the Valoran Chamber of Commerce are gradually fermented and brewed, most of West Blue's original wine companies must die. If it tastes good, it tastes good. If it doesn't taste good, it doesn't taste good. The qualitative difference is difficult to make up for through other means. Yes, the Valoran Chamber of Commerce must be sanctioned. After Jim Volt finished speaking, the presidents of other large chambers of commerce who had been impacted by the Valoran Chamber of Commerce also nodded. The small chambers of commerce are afraid of the Valoran family behind the Valoran Chamber of Commerce, but the large Chamber of Commerce, which has been rooted in West Blue for decades or hundreds of years, will not be too afraid of the Valoran family. West Blue was once full of mafia. But the real rulers of West Blue have never been the mafia. Behind every big chamber of commerce, there are many connections with the kings and nobles of West Blue and even senior officials of the world government. But, how to sanction it? The patriarch of the Valoran family once saved the life of Vice Admiral Galen. That's West Blue Inspector, Marine Vice Admiral Galen. Hema Larry, the Chamber of Commerce president of Hema Freight, looked at the many Chamber of Commerce presidents present who seemed to be filled with indignation, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and said in a deep voice, "The emergence of the Valoran Chamber of Commerce has impacted many local chambers of commerce in West Blue. But thanks to the increasingly stable underground order after the Valoran family unified the West Blue underground world. Also, because of the Valoran family and the Gangplank pirates' raids, many pirates were reduced. Those shipping chambers in West Blue have lost a lot of business. However, overall profits and the industry environment have improved. After all, every shipping trip in the world of One Piece must be prepared for the risk of being plundered by pirates. There are too many pirates in the pirate world." After Hema Larry, the president of the Hema Chamber of Commerce, finished speaking, most of the chamber presidents present fell into silence. A Marine Vice Admiral is no one to be trifled with. The apparent relationship between Duke and Galen is that Duke once saved Galen's life. And Galen, or a prestigious Marine Vice Admiral, is almost enough to stand at the top of power, let alone West Blue, even if he looks at the entire world. The entire Marine, all headquarters Vice Admirals and branch Vice Admirals combined, will never exceed 100. What about Marine Vice Admiral? This is West Blue, not Marineford. It is absolutely impossible for the world government and the kings of various countries to sit back and watch any Vice Admiral interfere in the local affairs of the major kingdoms. The president of West Blue's largest wine merchant association, Jim Volt, looked gloomy and said with a sinister smile, "Besides, we are not pirates. We are just making some corresponding boycotts against the Valoran Chamber of Commerce. Refuse to sell some goods to the Valoran Chamber of Commerce, and advise countless civilians in West Blue not to join the mafia. This won't offend Galen Vice Admiral, right? Naval headquarters is the world government's strongest force to suppress countless alliance countries around the world. It has countless elites and marine bases all over the world. The power of naval headquarters is extremely powerful. But because of this, the world government and the kings of various countries will never allow the naval headquarters' power to grow further. In particular, the naval headquarters will never be allowed to interfere with the internal affairs of the major kingdoms. Marine, always be Marine. After all, if the naval headquarters controls not only the military power, but also the power and economy of various countries. So, in this pirate world, what does the world government do? Why do we need franchise countries all over the world? Once an opening is opened, the unlimited growth of power will sooner or later make naval headquarters completely out of control. This is why Jim Volt dared to target the Valoran Chamber of Commerce even though he knew that Galen had a tacit understanding with the Valoran Chamber of Commerce. After all, as Marine Vice Admiral, it's impossible for Galen to take action against Jim Volt and others just because they are targeting the Valoran Chamber of Commerce, right? Good guys deserve to be pointed at a gun. At Jim Volt's suggestion, a large number of local Chamber of Commerce presidents in West Blue, after thinking for a moment, joined the anti-Valoran Chamber of Commerce alliance formed by Jim Volt. Except, the president of the Hema Chamber of Commerce, Hema Larry. For a time, there was a boycott by a large number of chambers of commerce in West Blue. What is it about slandering the Valoran Chamber of Commerce that there is something wrong with the drinks? The Valoran Chamber of Commerce's lottery tickets are all fraudulent. What is it about refusing to provide raw materials to the Valoran Chamber of Commerce? Why is the Valoran Chamber of Commerce originally a mafia, and the factories that join the Valoran Chamber of Commerce are joining the mafia, etc.? There are a series of rumors. Bring some unfashionable little tricks. It successfully reduced the revenue of the Valoran Chamber of Commerce by 10%, and also hindered Duke's business of opening factories and farming all over the West Blue. Then, Duke got angry. Are you kidding? You can call him Duke, you can assassinate him or start a war. But Duke really couldn't stand it if it hindered Duke's money-making business. Besides, accept that the Valoran Chamber of Commerce is indeed the Valoran family. Regarding the Valoran lottery tickets, drinks, and products from the Valoran Chamber of Commerce, Duke can guarantee that they are all genuine and genuine. Duke is not going far enough to cheat on this. After all, the lottery and alcohol industry are really profitable enough. Really, why do they think I'm so easy to bully when I do good business with them? Do good people deserve to be pointed at a gun? Sorry, I never thought I was really a good person. Duke looked coldly at the information sent by the Valoran Chamber of Commerce in various parts of West Blue, and said to Graves, Set, Capone Beige and others in front of him. I hope you haven't forgotten what kind of existence the Valoran family is. Go and let those chambers of commerce understand. West Blue is the West Blue of Valoran. As you command, my godfather. Graves, Seti and the others nodded slightly, while Capone Beige bowed deeply and spoke respectfully. Capone Beige has always had the ambition to assassinate Duke, rule the West Blue underground world, and then march into the New World to seize greater power and fame. However, after joining the Valoran family and seeing the strength of Graves, Set and others, well, mainly after being beaten many times by Seti in the name of exercise, Capone Beige feels that it would be nice to stay in the Valoran family forever. This is not because he is cowardly, just because he likes the harmonious and loving atmosphere of the Valoran family. After all, after Duke unified the underground order of West Blue, the Valoran family can definitely be regarded as the most powerful mafia family that is not considered a mafia. Which mafia family is busy selling lottery tickets, wine and opening factories all day long when they have nothing to do? Some sporadic battles were still to suppress the pirates who tried to buy for 0 yuan. This made some of the disciples in the Valoran family who were accustomed to fighting and killing not used to it at all. But now, the time to fight seems to have finally arrived. Jim Volt and others still look at mafias like the Valoran family with the same eyes as before. But what kind of power does the Valoran family, which has unified the entire West Blue underground world, have? By no means is the president of a small West Blue local chamber of commerce really able to see clearly. A bunch of idiots. Seahorse Larry, the president of the Seahorse Chamber of Commerce, casually threw aside the news about the victory of the anti-Valoran Chamber of Commerce alliance and cursed with disdain. Father, didn't President Volt and the others successfully suppress the Valoran Chamber of Commerce? Beside Hema Larry, his daughter Hema Avril opened her big round eyes with confusion on her face. Seahorse Larry patted Avril's head lovingly, and then said in a deep voice, What's the point of suppressing the Valoran Chamber of Commerce? Those guys have never figured out who their real enemies are. When the kings and nobles behind them didn't take action directly against the Valoran Chamber of Commerce, they would have already lost. Avril was still a little confused and tilted her head, her little head full of doubts. Kaiba Larry smiled, then looked deeply into Avril's eyes and said seriously, Avril, this sea is huge and cruel at the same time. Do you know what our Hema Chamber of Commerce has been able to survive in West Blue for more than 100 years? The thing is, we never make money beyond our capabilities. In this sea, strength is the key to everything. In terms of business methods and rumor transmission, as well as the intricate relationships and influence of major chambers of commerce in various parts of West Blue. The Valoran family, which has just unified the West Blue underground world, is certainly not as good as those old merchant guilds that have united. But, why does Duke fight with those anti-Valoran Chamber of Commerce alliances for business methods and spread rumors? Sorry, I don't pretend anymore, I show my cards. Duke flipped the table directly. It may be troublesome to solve those business problems, but solving those who cause problems for the Walola Chamber of Commerce, Duke thinks, is very simple. The Valoran family, which unified the West Blue underworld, under Duke's orders. For the first time, he showed his extremely sharp fangs to the whole world. Jim Volt, right, Godfather Duke asked me to say hello to you on his behalf. In Jim Volt's luxurious manner, Capone Beige threw the bloody head of Jim Volt's dog in front of Jim Volt's eyes. Behind Capone Beige, the bodyguard carefully hired by Jim Volt fell to the ground. This is just a warning. Next time, you will never see the sun tomorrow. In the ruins of the Brando Chamber of Commerce, Graves walked out of the chamber with his own double-barreled shotgun. Set directly destroyed President Rum's castle with a charged punch. Countless disciples of the Valoran family were sharpening their swords. It also made those usually aloof and superior Chamber of Commerce presidents understand what it means to wipe out an enemy's country within 10 steps. And, this sea is truly cruel. Only strength is real power. What kind of chamber of commerce and what kind of wealth are nothing in the face of real power? Go and notify those Marines. Let them issue a reward to apprehend those criminals. There is also Galen Vice Admiral. Galen Vice Admiral must also give us an explanation. Jim Volt, who was bruised and swollen, roared with anger in front of a large number of Chamber of Commerce presidents who were also bruised and swollen. Explain. What do you want to explain? Seahorse Larry said with a sneer. Marine has no way to interfere in the internal affairs of the kingdom, and it also cannot control some threats and intimidation on land. After Larry Kaiba said this, some of the Chamber of Commerce presidents who had originally thought of asking Marine to arrest the Valoran family were suddenly dumbfounded. Some cases within the One Piece Kingdom, including bandits, robbers, and mafia, will basically be handled by the major kingdoms themselves. It is true that Naval Headquarters has bases all over the world. But Naval Headquarters has absolutely no law enforcement and administrative power within the major kingdoms of the world. In other words, the kings from all over the world are not stupid enough to completely replace the soldiers of their own kingdoms with soldiers from Naval Headquarters. If Marine can't control it, then ask the kings to arrest the Valoran family. Jim Volt covered his swollen cheek and said with pain on his face. The humiliation and threats we have suffered must not be let go like this. Arrest the Valoran family. Haha, don't forget, they are the Mafia. And it's also the Mafia family that unified the entire West Blue underground world. Seahorse Larry sneered again. What's more, let them send out their troops and directly confront the powerful Valoran family regardless of Galen's friendship with the Vice Admiral. Just because you were threatened and beaten by the Valoran family. Do you really have such a big face? The most important thing is, do you really think? Can a few kings touch the current Valoran family? After the Valoran family unified the underground world of West Blue, the number of disciples of the entire Valoran family has exceeded 100,000. Coupled with cadres such as Seti Graves and Capone Beige, it can be said that throughout the entire West Blue, except for a few kingdoms, the strength may be slightly stronger than that of the Valoran family. The Valoran family has become the true overlord of the West Blue underground world. Although Duke likes and needs a lot of money, but he has never been stingy with the property that his disciples should have. There are many Valoran lottery shops all over West Blue, as well as a large number of sales staff in the Valoran Chamber of Commerce. A large part of them are disciples of the Valoran family. Work, for whom? Besides, not all disciples in the Valoran family are really eager to fight and kill. Most of the people in the pirate world are just ordinary people. Not many people are willing to become pirates if they can live peacefully, and not many people are really willing to fight to the death to become a mafia. President Larry, do you know what the hell you're talking about? I asked you to join us in targeting the Valoran Chamber of Commerce. It's okay if you refuse. And now you're still here saying this. Do you want us to target you too? If we can't deal with the Valoran family, how can we not deal with a mere seahorse Chamber of Commerce? Jim Volt squinted his eyes, trying to use his swollen eyes to release the endless chill, and said threateningly. Well, Larry definitely felt the threat to Kaiba. But the chill released by Jim Volt. Seahorse Larry looked at Jim Volt's head that was swollen into a pig's head and just felt like laughing. Then, Larry the seahorse really laughed out loud. Ha ha ha, sorry, President Jim, I just thought of something very funny. Seahorse Larry pretended to apologize, and then said in a deep voice. Also, I forgot to tell you that I joined the Valoran United Chamber of Commerce yesterday. From now on, the Valoran Chamber of Commerce will reach in-depth cooperation with the Seahorse Chamber of Commerce and work together to build a beautiful West Blue. If you are also willing to join, please do it as soon as possible. After all, West Blue is big, West Blue is also small. Many sea areas can only accommodate one Chamber of Commerce. After finishing speaking, Hema Larry walked away. The Hema Chamber of Commerce can continue to exist in West Blue for hundreds of years and continue to grow and develop. In addition to always only making money within its own capabilities. There is another thing to rely on, that is, when it is time to gamble, you must gamble. If he only made money within his ability, the first-generation president of the Hema Chamber of Commerce, that fisherman, would never be able to establish the Hema Chamber of Commerce today. Larry Hema walked away. In the banquet hall, a large number of presidents of the Chamber of Commerce with bruises and bruises also left the banquet with various excuses after a moment of silence. Then, he quickly started to contact him on how to join the Valoran United Chamber of Commerce. The businessman is very profitable. After seeing that the Valoran family has the ability to directly flip the table. Those chambers of commerce that don't want to die or be squeezed into bankruptcy by the Valoran Chamber of Commerce naturally have no choice but to join. It makes sense to join if you can't beat them. As for being threatened with a beating, being beaten up in order to earn money and survive is not shabby at all. The chambers of commerce in the West Blue anti-Valoran Chamber of Commerce Alliance rebelled one after another and began to think of ways to join the Valoran United Chamber of Commerce. Only a few presidents of large chambers of commerce, including Jim Volt, were left, looking at each other with tears in their eyes. It's not that they don't want to join the Valoran United Chamber of Commerce, but no matter what they think, as the leader of the Anti-Valoran Chamber of Commerce Alliance, it is really difficult to say that they will not die. What's more, if they don't die, how can the Valoran Chamber of Commerce and those presidents who have just joined the Valoran United Chamber of Commerce feel at ease? When a whale falls, all things come into being, and it is necessary to kill a chicken to scare the monkeys. Jim Volt and others are a little desperate. Don't think we're going to give in like this. After thinking for a long time, Jim Volt, Brando, President Rum and others looked at each other and made up their minds. High-end business wars often require only the simplest approach. Duke taught them a good lesson, and they also planned to unite and give Duke a big gift in return. On the other side, Duke looked at the large number of bruised presidents who kept complimenting him with flattering smiles on their faces, and the corners of his mouth raised slightly. The establishment of the Anti-Valoran Chamber of Commerce Alliance also made Duke aware of a problem. That is, how can the great and noble cause of developing and building West Blue and making countless civilians in West Blue prosperous and powerful be allowed to Duke alone? Establishing a joint chamber of commerce, pooling funds and working together for common development is the way to go. Well, Duke could obviously just grab it, and he was also willing to let the chambers of commerce participate by raising funds and buying shares. This is simply the conscience of West Blue. Of course, Duke doesn't think that those West Blue chambers of commerce will really lose money. After all, infrastructure farming is the eternal god. You can never make enough money. Duke's money is never enough. And unite a large number of local chambers of commerce in West Blue, and then concentrate their efforts to do big things, and make the entire West Blue cake bigger and stronger together. It will be much faster than Duke making the cake slowly by himself. When the cake grows bigger and stronger, even just a small piece is enough to satisfy all the local chambers of commerce in West Blue. This wave is simply a win-win situation. Well, referring to Duke winning twice. After all, the person responsible for sharing the cake in the end will only be Duke. Moreover, there are a series of high technologies invented by Jace, including the people's livelihood industries that are firmly controlled by Duke, as well as the most important means of production. The money earned by those chambers of commerce will eventually be spent in Duke's hands. Technology is the primary productive force. The Valoran United Chamber of Commerce begins to expand, like a herd effect. The more presidents join the Valoran United Chamber of Commerce, the more presidents are eager to join the Valoran United Chamber of Commerce. No one wants to be left alone, and no one wants to face the terrifying Valoran Chamber of Commerce alone in the end. With the participation of a large number of West Blue local chambers of commerce, the Valoran family's revenue, which had declined due to rumors and boycotts, instantly skyrocketed. When those chambers of commerce joined the Valoran Chamber of Commerce, in addition to bringing money, they also brought a large number of marketing channels. Even the construction costs and revenue issues of West Blue's large number of factories and infrastructure, which Duke has been worried about, have been easily solved due to the participation of a large number of chambers of commerce. After all, in order to better sell the products of major chambers of commerce, it is reasonable for everyone to jointly spend money to build roads, right? The Valoran Chamber of Commerce has quick-drying cement. There is no problem in buying their own quick-drying cement for road construction, right? And those cement plants and fertilizer plants require a lot of electricity, so there seems to be no problem if a power plant is opened nearby. Self-produced, self-sold, and takeaway gradually formed a positive benefit chain. Quick-drying cement, high-efficiency fertilizers, and a series of powerful products that seemed to have never appeared in the pirate world. Instantly, some of Duke's factories began to make a lot of profits. And a large number of workers who have gained jobs and income are gradually beginning to be willing to spend money. At least, they are willing to use some basic water and electricity. All reluctance comes from the comparison between income and time and energy. The reason why many West Blue civilians are willing to spend a lot of time and energy to carry water, chop firewood, and rest early is just because. In the past, the income they earned from the time they spent fetching water and cutting firewood may not even be comparable to the expenses for water, electricity and water. The time and energy of most civilians in the pirate world are worthless. Until they have their first decent job. The Valoran United Chamber of Commerce is rapidly expanding in West Blue, and Duke's originally meager monthly income has begun to skyrocket. In addition, a large number of anti-Valoran Chamber of Commerce presidents had, sincerely, sent me their apology. On Duke's system panel, the wealth value suddenly increased to 3 billion. With money, of course a draw is needed. Duke washed his hands carefully and then offered incense to Jim Volt, Brando, President Rum and others. After sacrificing their luck, they pressed the lottery button. Well, President Volt and others are not finished yet. But with Duke Shang already on board, are those guys still far away from being completely finished? Consuming 1 billion wealth values, congratulations to the host for winning the S-level prize and equipping it with the tribute of Lord Dominic. Lord Dominic's regards. When equipped, it can increase a medium amount of attack power, a small amount of critical hit chance, and a medium amount of armor penetration. At the same time, the attack has a giant killer effect, causing extra damage to enemy heroes whose maximum health is higher than yours. Consuming 1 billion wealth values, congratulations to the host for winning the S-level prize and a mortal reminder of the equipment. Mortal reminder, after equipped, it increases medium attack power, attack speed, critical hit chance and movement speed. At the same time, the attack has a septic effect, which greatly reduces the efficiency of life and physical recovery. Consumption of 1 billion wealth values, congratulations to host for winning S-level prize, Heroic Bounty Hunter Miss Fortune Sarah. Miss Fortune Sarah, Grade 1, Strength, B, Physique, B, Agility, B, Spirit, B, Potential, S, Equipment owned, none. Have the ability, overall rating, B, possess abilities, blessed by misfortune, meteor with stride, rain of bullets, etc. As the only daughter of a famous gunmaker, she grew up with a variety of powerful and magical firearms. She is familiar with almost all firearms. Gunfire is her weapon, more like her arm. She is the most famous and deadliest bounty hunter in the world of Valoran. Of course, as deadly as her guns are, there is also her beauty. Well, 2 pieces of armor. The giant killer carries sepsis. Judging from the per capita blood count and super resilient physique of the pirate world, these 2 pieces of equipment are simply artifacts. Hehe, I like it. Duke looked at the 2 pieces of tank buster equipment he had drawn and was extremely satisfied. Then, looking at the heroic Miss Fortune who was finally pulled out again, her face was filled with a smile. System, summon Miss Fortune immediately. Duke wanted to know just how deadly Miss Fortune's beauty, no, her twin guns, could be. Good luck does not favor fools. But my master will always look after me. The figure of Miss Fortune Sarah quietly emerged, with long wavy hair and 3 important elements, and an extremely charming voice. Duke instantly realized that Miss Fortune Sarah was indeed deadly. Of course, Miss Sarah's fatal beauty cannot make Duke lose his composure. In the world of pirates, beauty is not uncommon, and strength is the only capital worthy of exaggeration. Compared with Miss Sarah's deadly beauty, Duke prefers her deadly double guns. The world is full of prey, but it lacks some deadly hunters. Are you interested in making your name famous in this world again? Duke said seriously to Miss Fortune Sarah. The pirate world has countless pirates, but the countless bounty hunters in the pirate world are completely scattered. Duke thought this was unusual. So, he decided to add some deadly hunters to the world. Of course, Duke said that he was definitely not greedy for the bounties carried by the countless pirates on the sea, nor the wealth they possessed. He just wants to eliminate harm for the people and restore peace to the sea. Duke doesn't like pirates. Of course, leave it to me. Miss Fortune Sarah used the gun in her hand to brush her long hair and said lazily, "I love hunting. If there is no prey, what's the reward?" Miss Fortune quietly left West Blue alone and headed straight for South Blue. Her goal is simple: create a bounty guild in South Blue, and then hunt pirates all over the world. As for why not create a bounty guild directly in West Blue? Duke said West Blue has had enough big news. News can't always be gathered in one place, and Duke's power cannot be limited to West Blue. The whole world is the stage for Duke's heroes. Miss Fortune Sarah takes action. As for the 2 pieces of tank-busting equipment that Duke drew, Duke directly equipped Gangplank after thinking for a moment. Duke originally thought about equipping Gangplank with some meaty suits. After all, in the real world, staying alive is the most important thing. However, the tank buster has been drawn out, so it would be really rude to leave it unequipped. What's more, Gangplank now needs these 2 deadly weapons. New World, Gangplank feels that his strength has inexplicably increased a little. Looking at his pistol and machete, a bright smile appeared on his face. Now, he feels that the gift he prepared for Big Mom will be something that Big Mom will never forget. Now, there are only 15 days left before the Big Mom tea party. And Jim Volt, Brando, President Rum and others also finally found a return gift for Duke in these days. They may not be able to solve the problem of the Valoran United Chamber of Commerce's impact on their Chamber of Commerce, but they can also find a way to solve the problem of the people who raise problems for them. Money can also be transformed into power in many cases. Ha 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 ha. A bounty of 3 billion Baileys, plus a lot of intelligence and personnel support. It's really exciting. New World, the controller of the funeral home, the big-handed Undertaker Picro looked at the huge assassination order that West Blue Jim Volt and others jointly put together, and the corners of his mouth went straight to his ears. Dragoo died in West Blue because of a bounty of 1 billion belly. Black Swordsman Freddy wiped the long sword in his hand expressionlessly, without looking at the terrifying and huge assassination order in Picro's hand, and said coldly, "The most important thing is that they can't provide any useful intelligence at all." In terms of intelligence, how could the intelligence of Jim Volt and others compare to the information provided by Queen of the Pleasure District Stussy for the funeral home? And the so-called huge assassination order of up to 3 billion Baileys. This wealth is a huge amount of wealth for ordinary people or most pirates in the pirate world. But for the King of Killers Pietro and the Black Swordsman Freddy, it is difficult to completely impress them with money alone. No one among the New World 4 emperors has a bounty lower than 3 billion, but who can really get this huge bounty? Marine Vice Admiral, the Shadow Stream Killer, and the Mafia that unified the West Blue underground world, as well as the Valoran Chamber of Commerce alliance that integrated a large number of West Blue chambers of commerce. The most important thing is those powerful cadres whose strength is unknown. Our mission target is really a big shot. Picro was like a clown, with a funny and weird smile on his face, and he tore into pieces the huge assassination order that Volt and others had put together with a smile. Big shot. Big men bleed and die just the same. The situation in New World has stabilized, and we have a thorough understanding of the intelligence sent by Stussy, plus the guys we have recruited during this time. It's time for those naive guys in West Blue to know what real death is. Black Swordsman Freddy continued to gently wipe the long sword in his hand. Kaido did not even raise his head. All life will be worthless when it dies. Black Swordsman Freddy killed many so-called big shots with his sword. Freddy was already tired of the familiar cries and wails of those big men before they died. During this period of time, the funeral home was ready to enter West Blue and destroy the Shadow Stream. The killer realm of the pirate world can only have room for one true king. Death is the final destination of all living things. However, in many cases, we need to help those lost guests find their own graves in advance. Picro then said with a smile. But now is not the time. Big Mom's tea party will be coming soon. If I don't go, she will be angry. Let our guests live a little longer. By the way, let those idiots who smell the smell of blood also become our messenger of death before we completely bury Shadowstream and the Valoran family. Quote, Big Mom's tea party is not to be refused. Even if he is the king of the dark world, he is likely to encounter unexpected events if he casually refuses Big Mom's tea party invitation. The king of the dark world is just the king of the dark world, and the four emperors. But it is the emperor of the sea who stands at the top of the sea in the entire pirate world. Picro doesn't want to and doesn't dare to offend Big Mom. At the same time, before the funeral home entered West Blue with all its strength to destroy the Shadow Stream. Picro doesn't mind using that huge bounty of 3 billion belly to disrupt the entire West Blue. At the same time, let those killers and pirates who are crazy for money take a good look at the strength of the Valoran family and Duke. Although the information given by Stussy was detailed enough, it still did not have the specific strength of those Valoran family cadres. The funeral home needs more detailed information. The most important thing for a killer, besides his own strength, is always intelligence. The terrifying assassination order of up to 3 billion Baileys put together by Jim Volt and others, and deliberately spread by Picro and others, instantly spread to all the dark corners of the pirate world. Countless killers, countless pirates, countless bounty hunters, even some marine officials and kings of some small countries began to feel excited. 3 billion Baileys is nothing to the king of the dark world or some people who stand at the top of the pirate world. But for 99% of the people in the pirate world, this is a fortune that is enough to drive them crazy. The vast majority of pirates, killers and bounty hunters work desperately on the sea, definitely not for the so-called ambitions and dreams. They just do it for money. And now, this wealth, which is enough for them to live a luxurious life, is right in front of them. All they need to do is kill one person. Kill the leader of the West Blue Valoran family, Valoran Duke. That money must be mine. Countless killer pirates from all over the world, the Grand Line, and even the New World began to try their best to swarm into West Blue with the intention of taking Duke's head. As for what kind of strength the Valoran family and Duke have, who cares? In the traffic-blocked pirate world, there are many pirates and killers from all over the world. But you would think that you can rush into the New World with just the numbers, and you can kill the four emperors directly with the help of cannons and gunpowder. Greed often makes people lose their minds. And only blood can make those ignorant people understand what reality is. Duke frowned slightly as he looked at his terrifying assassination order of 3 billion belly. Duke is not sad that he has a bounty of up to 3 billion belly. After all, since the Great Pirate Age was established, no pirate with a bounty of hundreds of millions has finally fallen into the hands of a bounty hunter. Those bounty hunters in the pirate world are fine hunting some weaker pirates in the Four Seas or Grand Line. I really want to hunt those top strong men. That's not hunting, it's asking for death. What Duke is sad about is 3 billion. A full 3 billion Baileys. If Duke had this kind of money, he could do 3 more S-level draws. Now, those idiot Chamber of Commerce presidents who Duke had planned to slowly concoct actually used the money to put a bounty on Duke's head. This made Duke completely intolerable. If you have this money, send it directly to Duke to apologize. What Duke didn't say was that he would definitely let them go. After all, Duke is not a devil. If he takes the money, he will do what needs to be done. In Duke's eyes, money is more important than the lives of President Volta and others. But now, Duke felt, fools, especially fools who wasted money, deserved to die. Their Chamber of Commerce, Duke will want. Duke will never let go of their money or lives. Countless killers and pirates in the pirate world start taking action. And West Blue's killers in Shadowstream also made moves. Late at night, Jim Volt is still dreaming about countless killers killing Duke, the Valoran family falling apart, and his own Jim Chamber of Commerce standing on the corpse of the Valoran family to expand. Although the funeral home did not directly send out top killers to kill Duke quietly. But the Undertaker's house brought the horrific assassination order of up to 3 billion Baileys to the attention of the world, attracting countless killer pirates to flock to West Blue. On the contrary, Jim Volt and others felt that this wave was absolutely stable. Compared with the funeral house, a killer organization that was driven out of West Blue by Shadowstream. Jim Volt and others believe even more in the power of countless killer pirates throughout the world. Those wine recipes from the Valoran Chamber of Commerce will eventually be mine. No, except for those wine recipes. The factories of the Valoran family and the entire Valoran Chamber of Commerce, I want to eat them too. Jim Volt took a sip of saliva and said greedily. After annexing the Valoran Chamber of Commerce, my Jim Chamber of Commerce will become the largest chamber of commerce in West Blue. Maybe by then, it won't be impossible for me to become a great noble or even a king. Then, Jim Volt suddenly became extremely quiet in the manor, and there was still the slightest smell of blood, which made Jim Volt's eyes suddenly widen. He finally noticed something strange. Then, before he could say anything, a hidden sword had already cut his throat from behind. The blood flowed uncontrollably. Jim Volt clutched his throat in despair and made a roaring sound. In his gradually dimming eyes, the disappearing figure of Blade Shadow Talon was reflected. Assassination after assassination, it makes sense. The next day, the bodies of many killers and pirates who were fascinated by the bounty were thrown out from the Valoran family's manor. The bodies of Jim Volt and others were also discovered. However, no one cares about how Jim Volt and others died. Because now, the entire West Blue is in chaos. The influx of countless killers and pirates caused West Blue, which had been increasingly stable due to the existence of the Valoran family and Galen, to instantly riot. The great secret treasure of One Piece is out of reach for countless pirates. But the bounty bonus, which is actually worth up to 3 billion Baileys, can be obtained smoothly by going to West Blue and killing the godfather of a mafia family. This made countless pirates and killers even more crazy. Every day, a large number of killers and pirates, and even some corrupted marines pretending to be pirates, openly attack the Valoran family manor late at night or even during the day. Then, they all mysteriously disappeared into Valoran manor, with no one alive or dead. After killing many endless killers and pirates, Duke felt that it was really a waste. Life is very precious, especially the kind of life that is hardworking and can work 24 hours a day. Duke feels that it is even more precious. The construction of those factories and roads requires a large number of workers. As for the killers and pirates who dare to assassinate Duke, there is no doubt that they are all extremely strong workers. Duke was not evil either, and gave a chance to those who dared to assassinate him. As long as they work hard for Duke for 20 years, Duke will set them free and give them a salary for their retirement. This is much more merciful than killing them directly. There is no way, who makes Duke kind-hearted. Capone. Beige, my safety during this period of time depends entirely on you. Duke had just finished doing 10,000 weight-bearing push-ups. He looked quite weak and said to Capone. Beige, who had been standing in front of him. Capone. Beige looked at Duke, who looked extremely weak. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly, and then said with great loyalty. Not a single idiot will bother the Godfather until I fall. What a joke. After joining the Valoran family for so long, doesn't Capone Beige still know the terrifying resilience of the man in front of him? 1 second he looked weak, and within a few minutes he was doing 10,000 weight-bearing squats. Capone Beige felt that before he found Duke's real weakness. He, Capone Beige, is Duke's most loyal lackey. Anyone who intends to harm Duke's godfather will receive his merciless beating. Anyway, those idiots who can't even defeat him, no matter how hard they think, they can't hurt or force out Duke's weaknesses. At this time, there are countless idiots imprisoned in Capone Beige's body. Time passed quietly, and Valoran Manor was like a terrifying beast hidden in the black mist, ruthlessly devouring any enemy who dared to spy. The invisible terror gradually spreads in West Blue and the entire world. A large number of ordinary killers and pirates were dazzled by the huge bounty of up to 3 billion belly. I gradually came back to my senses because of this invisible terror. The number of killers and pirates who dared to attack Valoran Manor directly began to decrease. But those truly powerful killers and pirates have just begun to take action. It takes a certain amount of time to get to West Blue from Grand Line and New World. The development of the Baroque Work Society is a bit too slow. Are you deliberately perfunctory with me? Nicole Robin. In Alabasta's Rain Feast, Crocodile was holding a cigar, his face looming in the thick smoke. We lack experts and funds, and we can't directly put your name out there. The stronghold that we worked so hard to establish at Whiskey Peak was destroyed due to the battle between the Gangplank pirates and the Marine candidate Admiral T. Dolphin. The development of Baroque Working Group is slow, and there is no way around it. Nicole Robin covered her mouth, with a playful smile on her face, and said tentatively. However, there is big news in the underground world recently. The funeral home issued an assassination order with a bounty of 3 billion Baileys. If we can win this bounty, we will have the development funds and reputation of the Baroque Working Society. Of course Nicole Robin knows that these 3 billion Baileys are not easy to get. Nicole Robin, who is constantly reincarnated in betrayal and counter-betrayal, is no longer the simple and innocent girl she once was. Nico Robin knew the horror of the funeral home, as well as the power of the Valoran family and shadow stream that could vaguely contend with it. However, it's not like you do it yourself. If you encourage the crocodile, Nicole Robin will definitely make a profit. Crocodile takes action, and Nico Robin can use this to test the strength of Crocodile and the Valoran family. Nicole Robin has always known that when she completes Crocodile's mission, it will be the day she breaks up with Crocodile. But it doesn't matter, Nicole Robin is already used to betrayal. At the same time, she is also very interested in the Valoran family, which has unified the underground world of West Blue and brought great changes to West Blue. Nicole Robin was born in West Blue. If Crocodile doesn't take action, the blame for the slow development of Baroque works can also be passed on to Crocodile, the boss behind the scenes. In this round, Nicole and Robin simply win-win, win twice. An assassination order for 3 billion Baileys. Because of this bounty, countless hyenas from the underworld flocked to West Blue like crazy. Then, they all turned into dead dogs. Crocodile took a deep breath from the cigar, and then exhaled a large amount of smoke, making Crocodile's expression even more mysterious and profound. That Picro who smells like blood will not give away his money to others in vain. The Valoran family and Shadowstream are not easy to deal with. There is no need for us to go into this muddy water. Don't forget our true goal, Nicole Robin, Crocodile said in a deep voice, hiding all the guilt in his eyes in the smoke. Since the challenge, Whitebeard had an arm cut off and his internal organs were damaged by the force of the shock. And after his faith was directly shattered because of Whitebeard's power. The current Crocodile is far less powerful than it once was. To put it simply, Crocodile doesn't want to cause trouble and affect his search for Pluton. This is definitely not because he is a little timid now. Crocodile has now pinned all his hopes on ancient weapon Pluton. I see. Nicole Robin smiled and nodded. Although he failed to use the godfather of the Valoran family to test Crocodile's true strength. However, Crocodile's current performance has shown everything. How powerful is the mysterious Valoran family? Even the 7 warlords of the sea crocodile are unwilling to take action. Or is it that the current sand crocodile is far less powerful than it was back then? Nicole Robin sighed secretly. The former sand crocodile was now on par with Douglas Bullet, the top warrior in the ocean who dared to challenge the pinnacle Whitebeard. But now the sand crocodile, it's just a little fool. Under the stability of Crocodile, Baroque works did not rush into West Blue and kill people. But the well-known killers from the New World Moguro Kingdom, the Gaili Fanku brothers, who are now in their 30s, rushed to West Blue in a hurry. He wants to take Duke's head and get the bounty of up to 3 billion Baileys. Gaili Fanku is a user with the Jacket Fruit ability and has extremely strong fighting ability. Pirates with tens of millions of bounties on their heads are no match for Gaili Fanku. But the biggest advantage they have is that they have almost never fought since they were young, but they are born with extremely strong physiques and are able to physically resist Armament Hockey's younger brother Bobby. Once the two of them combine using the Jacket Fruit, they will be able to defeat the great pirate who has a bounty of hundreds of millions. Brothers Gaili and Fanku have a dream of getting rich. And on an unknown island in the first half of the Grand Line, a tall and strong man holding a big knife. He was as naive as a chicken, following a short and thin woman. Mom, are we leaving here? If we leave here, we won't be able to eat meat every day. Whitebeard II Edward Weevil asked reluctantly. He lived very happily on this island. There were many big beasts on this island. Their meat is plentiful and delicious. Stupid son, as long as we kill that guy, we will have endless amounts of meat in our lives. Miss Ba Jin's eyes shone brightly and he said with great greed. The top strong men on the sea are often unwilling to act as killers for the 3 billion Baileys, and are involved in the Shadow Stream, the Valoran family, and Uzumaki in the funeral home. But, Miss Ba Jin and his silly son are absolutely exceptions. Before Whitebeard died, he did not dare to go to the New World easily. At the same time, he once cut off one of Zephyr's arms when Zephyr had an asthma attack. Edward Weevil and Miss Ba Jin, who killed many Zephyr students, could only hide in the first half of the Grand Line. Miss Ba Jin has had enough of such days. She desires a lot of wealth and a luxurious life. And enter West Blue, cut off Duke's head, and win the bounty of up to 3 billion Baileys. This is the first step for Miss Ba Jin to realize his wish. As for how powerful the Valoran family is it easy to get Duke's head? Miss Ba Jin never cares. Edward Weevil never asked how strong the enemy was, only where he was. Edward Weevil, the second Whitebeard, is a fool with terrifying power. Edward Weevil and Miss Ba Jin also began to move towards West Blue. In the first half of the Grand Line, there were many powerful pirates and killers from New World who also rushed towards West Blue. With a bounty of up to 3 billion Baileys, and a little-known mission goal, the West Blue Mafia Godfather is enough to impress even a big pirate with a bounty of hundreds of millions. In addition to the Guile Fanku brothers and Whitebeard II, the New World's great pirate Blood Wolf Hog, who has a bounty of 290 million, also set sail for West Blue. New World, 4 emperors. Monsters, all monsters. When I take that guy's head, I will take this money and retire in peace to become a rich man. Blood Wolf Hog was lucky enough to see Kaido of the Beasts and red-haired Shanks meet not long ago. Then, the sky cracked, and Blood Wolf Hog's original ambition to challenge the 4 emperors also shattered into pieces. When the 4 emperors meet, they will hit the sky with a blow. It is purely a meeting gift. But such a greeting gift is enough to shock countless people. Blood Wolf Hog was one of those who was hit. Countless powerful people from the Grand Line and New World began to pour into West Blue. In the Holy Land of Mariajoy, the 5 elders who had received countless messages of help and protest from the King of West Blue also frowned slightly. The funeral home did not quietly weaken the strength of the Valoran family and shadow stream in the darkness as we expected. Now, the entire West Blue is in chaos because of the high reward that was revealed. West Blue, no chaos. The 5 elders don't care too much about some unrest in the New World or the Grand Line. Grand Line and New World were originally their chosen dumping grounds. However, Seahai cannot. Seahai has nearly 80% of the pirate world's population and economy. It is also the most important foundation for the world government to rule the pirate world for hundreds of years. The 3 marine admirals, as well as countless marine elites and world government soldiers, were all born in the 4 seas. Tell Marine to dispatch troops to West Blue to suppress those scum. In addition, it can also cause some trouble for that Galen Vice Admiral. He is the inspector of West Blue. West Blue is in such big trouble, and he has nothing to do with it. The bearded 5 elders said quietly. Sengoku has always wanted to transfer Galen to Naval Headquarters for further training. As for the relationship between Galen and Duke, the 5 elders, Sengoku and others all saw it. However, Galen never helped Duke do anything that violated laws and disciplines to seek power for personal gain. And the personal relationship with Duke was nothing at all. Garp was secretly friends with Roger, and even adopted Roger's posthumous son. They're just some scum that's been blinded by a bounty of 3 billion. They can't shake the balance of West Blue. But if a large number of Marines are deployed, Sengoku will find a reason to expand Marine forces. Curly hair 5 elders frowned slightly. Marine's power is already strong enough. If we continue to expand, I'm afraid it will affect the balance of the entire world. The world government, which has a reputation for justice in the pirate world, can launch a world conscription at any time. And a world conscription directly recruited 2 admiral-level masters, Fujitora Yishao and Green Bull Araki, and the elites below admiral level were even more difficult to count. In other words, as long as the world government is willing, it can launch a wave of world conscription at any time before the Summit War breaks out. Then easily defeat the Whitebeard pirates, and then wipe out the New World. Sengoku Garp, Zephyr Fujitora and other 6 strong admiral-level players faced off against the remaining 3-4 emperors groups, and there was no way they would lose no matter how hard they thought. It's just that compared to pacifying the New World and ending the age of great pirates, the world government values the balance of the ocean more. Yes, we can't let Marine's power continue to expand. The unrest in West Blue is only temporary. But if Marine's power continues to expand, it will shake the entire world. The blonde 5 elders nodded in agreement. However, the unrest in West Blue cannot be ignored. We have just collected gold from heaven. If we ignore the protests of those kings, the next time the heavenly gold will not be so easy to collect. The bearded five elders said with concern. HMPH, then find a way to resolve the turmoil in West Blue as quickly as possible. The bald five elders holding first-generation Kidetsu said murderously. Send CP0 to directly kill the godfather of the Valoran family. Without the reward, naturally there won't be so many idiots flocking to West Blue. That guy's hand is stretched too long. Isn't it good to just live in the gutter all the time? Why do you have to stand in the sun and try to gain power that you don't deserve? After the bald five elders finished speaking, the other five elders nodded repeatedly after thinking for a moment. Killing Duke directly and taking the bounty is undoubtedly one of the fastest ways to end the chaos in West Blue. From the Valoran family to the Valoran United Chamber of Commerce, Duke's expanding power and influence in West Blue gradually made the five elders feel wary. There is no need for another force like Germa 66 to appear in the world. CP0 number 18, wearing a strange mask, took action. CP0 is the strongest guarding force of the world government or celestial dragons and Cypher Pole. There are always only 100 people. They often don't have names, just numbers. The higher the number, the stronger the strength. Each of the top 20 personnel in the CP0 number has a combat power at least comparable to that of the Naval Headquarters Elite Vice Admiral. And CP0, who has the title of strongest shield and strongest spear at the top of the number, is no weaker than Admiral or 4 Emperors. Except for the fact that the top combat power and grassroots combat power are not as good as Naval Headquarters, CP0 has almost assembled the backbone of the world government drawn from various organizations under his command. Especially some powerful CP0s who appear suddenly and wear masks all year round. No one knows where they come from. CP0, Whitebeard II, the great pirate blood wolf hog with a bounty of 290 million. Bringing in a large number of powerful killers and pirates like the Guile Fanku brothers, a large number of powerful people are eyeing Duke's head. At this time, Duke also began to feel troubled by the large number of people who were eyeing him. He wasn't worried about his safety. He is worried about the same as the five elders. West Blue cannot be messed up. West Blue is the headquarters of the Valoran family. Duke has prepared numerous enterprises in West Blue. The Valoran United Chamber of Commerce is also expanding and is waiting to make a lot of money. And now, a large number of powerful people who like $0 purchases have suddenly poured into West Blue. This will undoubtedly have an extremely serious impact on Duke's money-making plans. It is far easier to destroy than to build. So, this farce must be resolved as soon as possible. Duke murmured. He also thought of a way to solve West Blue's troubles as soon as possible. That is, it's time to kill the funeral home. In addition to Duke's death, the killer pirates have lost their mission goal and can end the turmoil in West Blue as soon as possible. Without the agency issuing bounties, the turmoil in West Blue can be calmed down in an instant. Duke agreed with Picro's point of view. That is, in this world, only one killer organization is enough. The Lord of the Shadow Stream, Jia, and the Blade Shadow Tailong were already thirsty for the sharp blades in their hands. Zed, Tai Lung and others, with the secret help of Janna, quickly rushed to the New World. In the pirate world, as long as you have the ability to pass through the Com Belt, you can enter the New World directly from West Blue and North Blue. The world government and naval headquarters control the technology across the Com Belt. Steam-powered warships also have sea stones inlaid on the bottom of the ship, which is enough for those warships to not rely on the wind and not be bothered by the Sea Kings. There is no wind in the Com Belt. But Janna is the embodiment of wind. Time passed quietly, and both Shadowstream and the funeral home began to take action. The time for the Big Mom tea party is getting closer and closer. Plank began to carefully plan his next gift. At this time, Whitebeard II Edward Weevil and Miss Ba Jin also. From the first half of the Grand Line, we entered West Blue smoothly. Whitebeard II Edward Weevil appears in West Blue. Did he finally show up for that reward? Sengoku, let me go to West Blue and kill that fool. Inside Naval Headquarters Marineford, Garp looked at the latest intelligence received by Naval Headquarters, changed his usual incoherence, and said solemnly. Edward Weevil chopped off one of Zephyr's arms, killed a large number of Zephyr's students, and made Zephyr resign from his position as Chief Instructor of Naval Headquarters. Garp, who had a good relationship with Zephyr, has never forgotten this grudge. Cannot go. Sengoku loosened his collar and let himself breathe a little. After a moment of silence, he said firmly, "Big Mom's tea party is about to be held, and troublesome guys like Ocean Disaster Gangplank will also attend, and they seem to be interested in joining the 10 nations. Once a guy like that joins the 10,000 nations, the situation in the entire New World will probably change dramatically. We must gather enough strength to face a world that may change drastically. Then let that fool go like this." Garp gritted his teeth and said, a little disappointed. Garp may not want to fight for the celestial dragons, but he also has justice in his heart. He's always been a Marine. Compared with avenging Zephyr, it is undoubtedly more important to be alert to the possible big changes in the New World Big Mom pirate group. Once the Big Mom pirates and the Gangplank pirates merge, they will undoubtedly become the strongest pirate group in the world, posing a huge threat to the entire world. The Whitebeard pirates also don't have 2 admirals or above. As long as we determine his whereabouts, sooner or later we will make that guy pay the price. Sengoku lowered his eyebrows and said coldly, "What's more, the reward that Edward Weevil is eyeing is not that easy to get. Maybe the Valoran family will give us a surprise." The news that the Valoran family founded the Valoran United Chamber of Commerce in West Blue and its power continues to expand has never been a secret. But Sengoku doesn't care. He's not a 5 elders, he just knows. After the Valoran family unified the West Blue underground world and formed the Valoran Chamber of Commerce Alliance, the number of pirates in West Blue has decreased, and many civilians in West Blue have gained a better life. For Sengoku, that's enough. The needs of naval headquarters and world government have never been completely consistent. Family Valoran, I see. Garp nodded, and then said in a deep voice, "By the way, don't tell Zephyr about the whereabouts of Edward Weevil discovered in West Blue. Zephyr has not yet been equipped with a crusher, and due to his age and asthma, he may not be Edward Weevil's opponent now. I have blocked this news a long time ago." Sengoku rolled his eyes at Garp angrily and answered Kaido. As contemporaries, the relationship between Sengoku and Zephyr is also very good. In other words, Zephyr, who is the unkillable admiral and the chief instructor of the naval headquarters, has a pretty good relationship with most of the marine elites in the naval headquarters. Zephyr is a very special existence among naval headquarters. Sengoku and others gather their strength to prepare for the changes in the New World. In West Blue, before the Valoran family could give Sengoku and others a surprise, Galen Vice Admiral, the inspector of West Blue. But after learning the whereabouts of Edward Weevil, he took the initiative to find him. It's natural for Marine to fight pirates. Of course, after defeating Edward Weevil, you can gain a lot of favorability and influence in the Marines. It was also the key to Galen directly finding Edward Weevil. Defeating an Edward Weevil may increase the favorability of Marine more than defeating a 4 emperors. Galen, who was summoned at the same time as Plank, had not experienced countless bloody battles like Plank. But Galen, who has killed and captured countless West Blue pirates, and can exercise crazily for a long time with his tough passive, is definitely not low in level and strength. At least, against a guy like Whitebeard II Edward Weevil who has at least A+ combat power. Galen is confident and will not lose. The battle started instantly after Galen caught up with Edward Weevil on a small island. Miss B.A. Jin originally thought that Edward Weevil could easily cut Galen and those annoying Marines in half with one knife. But with a loud bang, the cracked earth and the shock wave that swept through countless plants around, and Galen who never took a step back, Miss Ba Jin instantly understood. Now, we are in big trouble. Hey, this kind of combat power is not like that of West Blue's Marine. Are you the Marine Vice Admiral who killed Bai Xiao? What a great newcomer. Miss Ba Jin had a sullen face and looked around with glistening eyes. After seeing no more figures of Marine Vice Admiral or even Admiral, then he temporarily calmed down and ordered to Edward Weevil, "Son, get rid of that guy quickly, I don't want to be surrounded by a lot of Marines." Miss Ba Jin was worried that he would be besieged by a large number of Marine elites. Edward Weevil is thick-skinned and might not care much about the attacks of ordinary Marine soldiers. In other words, ordinary Marine soldiers are simply not qualified to participate in the battle between Galen and Edward Weevil. However, Miss Ba Jin, who has become old and frail and has seriously reduced his combat power, cannot withstand too many attacks from Marine soldiers. She was never a combatant. Got it, Mom. Edward Weevil sniffed his nose and said angrily. I'll cut him in half right now. Edward Weevil became serious. Possessing the power of Whitebeard in his youth, Edward Weevil is undoubtedly a monster. However, Galen was fighting monsters. If you can do it. Come on. Galen clenched the sword in his hand and said firmly. The evil and calamity will not be pardoned. Not long after Edward Weevil entered West Blue, he destroyed 10 merchant ships and 2 small towns. Thousands of people died because of him. In the eyes of Edward Weevil, life is meaningless. In other words, he never understood the weight of life. He is a fool, or a naughty kid. But many times, the atrocities those children can do are even more cruel and terrifying. Being a naughty child is definitely no reason why Edward Weevil can escape punishment. The sword in Galen's hand quietly flashed with light, and then he charged forward bravely and fearlessly. For justice. Accept the sanction. Galen jumped up in the air, brandished his sword, and slashed towards Edward Weevil. The sword in Edward Weevil's hand was infected with the dark armament Hodi, and he fought back without flinching. Edward Weevil may not be very mentally sound, but this does not affect his ability to be a master of two-color Hodi. There was a loud noise, sparks flying, and a powerful impact that caused Miss Ba Jin, who was hiding aside, to twist his face slightly. After the impact, Miss Ba Jin suddenly widened his eyes. Because in her impression, Edward Weevil, who almost never retreated when facing someone head-on, actually took several steps back at this moment. Edward Weevil took a few steps back and looked at a small notch on his sword in confusion. He touched his head naively, smoothly activated armament Hodi, and after completely covering his sword again, he happily rushed towards Galen again. Just now, at the moment when Galen and Edward Weevil were fighting, an inexplicable energy instantly interfered with the flow of Hodi in Edward Weevil's body. In the middle of the fight, he suddenly fell at a disadvantage. But after being able to activate armament Hodi smoothly again, Edward Weevil rushed forward with confidence. With strong fighting instincts and extreme strength, he clearly knew that. In terms of strength alone, Galen is no match for him like the enemies he cut in half before. And as long as he can't compete with him in terms of strength, all that's left is just a matter of how much time it takes to chop him into pieces. The most powerful thing about Edward Weevil has never just inherited the terrifying power of Whitebeard when he was young. In other words, the monster-like physique inherited from Whitebeard is the real reason why he can possess such terrifying power. Ordinary people can only fight for 1 or 2 hours at most if they use armament Hodi with all their strength. Luffy also needs a certain amount of time to rest as he keeps doing sit-ups. But Edward Weevil said he can push armament Hodi full force and play for several days. Then, not long after, armament Hodi was inexplicably interrupted by Galen's strange attack. Edward Weevil. Looking at the small gap in the big knife in his hand, his face was full of grievance. He could still fight Galen for several days, but it felt like the big knife in his hand couldn't last long. Edward Weevil noticed something was wrong, and Miss Ba Jin, who had been watching the battle quietly from the side, had cold sweat covering his forehead. In terms of strength, Miss Ba Jin is certainly not as good as Edward Weevil, but in terms of knowledge, Miss Ba Jin can surpass Edward Weevil by several blocks. Miss Ba Jin once stayed in the same boat as Whitebeard. In other words, when Miss Ba Jin was young, he was once the only overlord of the sea at that time, a crew member of Rock's. Of course, she's just a ship's doctor on Rock's ship. She sensed great danger during the battle between Edward Weevil and Galen. Galen and Edward Weevil fought with all their strength for a long time, although they were often forced back by the serious Edward Weevil. But Miss Ba Jin carefully observed Galen's expression. He found that, like Edward Weevil, there was not even a drop of sweat on Galen's forehead. Another monster on the sea with an innate physique, like Whitebeard or Kaido. Monsters are not unusual. After all, if he can fight to such an extent with the son she carefully cultivated like Edward Weevil, of course he will also be a monster. After all, only monsters can defeat monsters. But what really made Miss Ba Jin feel dangerous was that she noticed. During the all-out battle with Edward Weevil, the aura on Galen's body continued to grow stronger. The battles with strong men allowed Galen to continuously unleash his potential. Simply put, experience points are constantly increasing and upgrades are in sight. What kind of potential does that guy have? Could it be that he has greater potential than Whitebeard II, whom I carefully cultivated? Miss Ba Jin looked at Galen, who was getting stronger, with some horror, his eyes rolling. Just as he was about to ask Edward Weevil to take her with him, he immediately ran away. The next second, behind her, Galen's adjutant, Marine Colonel Groom, led a small number of Marine elites and quietly appeared. Galen Vice Admiral said, "This is not a fight we should get involved in. I also know that we are weak." Grum lowered his head and held the saber in his right hand tightly. The joints looked particularly pale due to excessive exertion. "But, we are also Marines. Is it because we are weak that we have to watch our coach and the enemies fight alone?" "Stop dreaming, Miss Ba Jin, don't even want to sneak attack Lord Galen. Your enemy is us. We want to knock you down." When Groom said this, his head was held high and his face was full of determination. The few Marine elites behind him were also prepared to die. Miss Ba Jin does not have a bounty on his back, but as the mother of the powerful Whitebeard II, no one would think that Miss Ba Jin would be a weakling. Groom and others also wanted to reduce the number of enemies for Galen as much as possible. Miss Bajin, who was about to call Whitebeard II to run away, looked at Grum and others who were rushing towards him with determination on their faces. The corners of their mouths kept twitching, and their faces were speechless. "What's the situation? I didn't want to attack Galen, I just wanted to run away. Miss Ba Jin is certainly not a weakling. After all, he has been in the same boat as Whitebeard. But to say she is a strong person. Then, haha. After carefully nurturing Edward Weevil, she had not fought for a long, long time. In other words, after she pinned all her future hopes on Edward Weevil, she was no longer the Miss Ba Jin she once was. A strong person in the world of pirates needs to have a firm belief. Spirit is an extremely powerful force. Today, Miss Ba Jin is just an old and frail old woman, barely possessing a combat power close to that of AB Naval Headquarters Colonel. And under Galen's careful teachings and constant bloody battles with pirates, Groom and a few other elites. Compared with the elite naval headquarters at the same level, there is not much difference. The most important thing is, facing a cruel pirate like Miss Ba Jin, who may be extremely powerful. Of course Groom and others chose to besiege. Marine fights pirates, but he never talks about morality. With faces full of determination, Grum and others launched a desperate charge against Miss Ba Jin. Then, under the siege of Grum and others, Miss Ba Jin jumped up and down and fled in confusion. "Son, save me." Miss Ba Jin, who had dodged several bullets in great embarrassment, hurriedly called Edward Weevil for rescue. And Edward Weevil, who was wondering why he couldn't kill the enemy in front of him, but was getting harder and harder to fight. After hearing Miss Ba Jin's cry for help, he suddenly became anxious, abandoned Galen in a panic, and ran towards Miss Ba Jin. Galen looked at Edward Weevil, who was retreating in panic. He did not take the opportunity to make a sneak attack, but a glimmer of light quietly flashed above the sword in his hand. Then, at a speed far faster than Weevil, he directly blocked Edward Weevil's eyes. "This road is blocked." Galen held the sword with a solemn expression. "Come and fight. Justice be with me." Behind Galen, Groom and the others, who finally succeeded in capturing Miss Bajin, looked confused. Whitebeard's possible woman, the mother of the formidable Edward Weevil. Result, that's it. Chapter 64. Let go of my mother. I'm going to chop you all into pieces. Seeing Miss Ba Jin being captured by Groom and others in a state of embarrassment, Edward Weevil instantly turned red-eyed. Then he used all his strength to activate Haki in his body and slashed towards Galen. Then, this time Edward Weevil, who exploded to the limit, did not retreat. However, there was another gap in the big knife in Edward Weevil's hand. Galen's fatal blow has been awaited for a long time. Edward Weevil failed to score a single blow, but he was not discouraged. He was like a wild beast, with red eyes and no longer worried about the sword in his hand. No longer worried about whether he would be injured, he just swung the sword over and over again regardless of it, vowing to break through Galen's interception and save Miss Ba Jin. Although Edward Weevil was a fool who regarded other people's lives as trivial, Miss Ba Jin was the whole world to him. The rumbling sound is endless, and the squeaking sound of weapons clashing is even more constant. Sparks flew everywhere, the earth cracked, and even the clouds in the sky were directly dispersed due to the continuous extreme battle between Galen and Edward Weevil. Groom and the others, whose hair was messy and even their hats flew away, were swept away by the shock wave from the confrontation between Galen and Edward Weevil. Looking stupidly at the broken earth and clear sky in front of me. Then, he glanced with admiration at Galen, who was fighting with Edward Weevil not far away. Miss Ba Jin, who was as smooth as a pig with his hands and feet chained and his mouth covered, ran away decisively. After slipping away, this was indeed not a battlefield they should get involved in. But this time, they actually captured Miss Ba Jin. They still played a big role. At least, Galen Vice Admiral was not held back. Groom and others comforted themselves. Although they all understand that with the strength of the Miss Ba Jin they have captured, it seems that it will have little effect whether they appear or not. They couldn't get involved in Galen and Edward Weevil's shopping spree. Could it be that Miss Ba Jin, a weakling, could get involved? And when Galen defeats Edward Weevil, where else can a weakling like Miss Ba Jin go? She couldn't just run away without her own son. Miss Ba Jin, whose hands and feet were locked and his mouth was covered, arched his body and let out a little whimper in despair. She had really thought before that if something bad happened, she would escape first. But now, it's all over. She never regarded Edward Weevil as her real son. Edward Weevil is not the result of the love between Miss Ba Jin and Whitebeard. It's just a tool that Miss Ba Jin tried his best to cultivate using Whitebeard's genes. Grum and others took Miss Ba Jin and fled away, but even on the warship far away from the island, Groom and others can still feel the violent vibrations of the earth and ocean, as well as the constant roar. The battle lasted for a whole day. With his eyes red and red, Edward Weevil lost all control and only focused on attacking with all his strength. Only half of the sword in his hand was left, and there were a lot of wounds left on his body. Edward Weevil lost half of his crescent-shaped beard, and also lost one of his right eyes. Blood covered his whole body, and even the big hand holding the knife began to tremble slightly. But Edward Weevil still kept muttering, "Mom, Mom," stupidly. Then, again and again, he launched desperate attacks against Galen, who only had 2 wounds on his body that were gradually healing. Galen looked at Edward Weevil, who was constantly attacking him, with neither joy nor sadness in his eyes. Just silently feeling that not only was his physical strength not depleted, but instead increased again due to the upgrade, he said firmly, "For justice." The next second, a huge and gorgeous golden sword quietly covered the sky and covered the island. Then, like an asteroid hitting the earth, the sharp sword tip cut through the void, and the resistance of the atmosphere gradually turned the sword tip red. Even before it landed, the terrifying pressure of the gorgeous giant sword had already caused an ever-expanding pit to appear on the ground. In the center of the deep pit, there was Edward Weevil, who had been locked by the gorgeous giant sword and was covered in blood. Edward Weevil looked up stupidly, looking at the gorgeous golden giant sword that was constantly attacking him, without fear or retreat. He just held the incomplete sword in his hand in vain, tried hard to move his body towards Galen, and muttered, "Mommy, Mommy, Mom is still waiting for me to save her." Then, under the crushing force of the gorgeous giant sword, half of the island was shattered into pieces. Bury all the filth and sin deeply into the sea. The ruthless sea can always tolerate all ugliness and evil without discrimination. Give them the final salvation. Grum and the others, who were letting the warship sway under the waves in the distance, stared at half of the island disappearing directly under the gorgeous sword, their eyes widened in confusion. They knew that Galen was very strong, but they never expected that Galen would be so strong. And Miss Ba Jin, who was still locked up like a pig but still didn't give up his struggle. Looking at half of the island disappearing in the distance, and the familiar aura that also disappeared in her perception, Momo closed his eyes and stopped struggling. Edward Weevil was just a tool she carefully cultivated. But when this tool disappears, why, Miss Ba Jin still feels that his heart suddenly becomes empty. Is wealth really that important? Miss Ba Jin fell into silence. Wealth certainly matters, especially to Duke. After learning that Whitebeard II was directly killed by Galen, Duke felt a little regretful. After all, Whitebeard II's head is worth 480 million. But if Marine kills the pirates, he won't be able to collect the reward. Marine fights pirates, that's his duty. However, compared to a head worth 480 million, Duke cares more about Galen's safety and future development. Although he has great confidence in Galen, if Whitebeard II is like King Luffy, With just a few hits, the combat power of the Shichibukai instantly rises to that of the four emperors. That would be difficult to handle. Duke sent Seti to support him nearby, ready in case Galen was defeated or Miss Bajan suddenly burst out with terrifying strength. Let Seti and Garen carry out a righteous siege together, or let Seti kill Miss Bajan, an old woman. After all, when dealing with women, whether they are young women or old women, Seti will always have a bonus. Under the strong hand and splitting the skull, all living beings are equal. Then, Seti made a splash, and Whitebeard II was successfully killed by Galen. Sure enough, not everyone in this world can be like King Luffy, who can break through and become stronger quickly. Well, except for the heroes, who can level up. After Galen upgraded, he directly killed Whitebeard II without any damage. In naval headquarters, Sengoku is still in turmoil due to the possible recruitment of Gangplank by Big Mom and the influx of a large number of powerful figures from West Blue. After learning that Galen had directly killed Edward Weevil, he sprayed Garp in front of him with a sip of tea. Garp was confused and shot innocently. Then, before Garp had time to settle the score with Sengoku, after seeing the latest information in Sengoku's hand, Garp's expression suddenly became dull. They have always wanted to avenge Zephyr, but they have never found the chance. As for Galen, his favorability among the senior management of naval headquarters instantly increased. Sengoku Garpaku is Zephyr's friend. The three admirals and most of the naval headquarters are all Zephyr's apprentices. Zephyr may not be the strongest admiral, but with his skills as a disciple and his connections in the Marines, he is definitely top-notch. Now Galen's future in naval headquarters is absolutely unlimited. Duke actually didn't think much about it, he just wanted Galen to be a marshal or admiral if possible. Is that guy actually dead? Zephyr will definitely feel much better if he learns this news. The death of those students was not his fault. Garp said sadly with a rare solemn look on his face. His wife and children were killed by pirates, and he did not directly defeat the Admiral Black Arm Zephyr who refused to kill him. But in front of him, a large number of Marine students who had placed their deep feelings and high hopes on him. After his arm was cut off due to an asthma attack to protect him, and he was seriously injured and chopped into pieces one by Edward Weevil. Once the Admiral was not killed, the Black Arm Zephyr was completely dead. He told me before that he wanted to transform his broken arm and form a pirate guerrilla team to avenge the pirates. I have no reason to stop him. Sengoku also said with a deep expression. But now, maybe we can persuade him to come back. He will always be our best Marine instructor. Zephyr's broken arm, age, and everything he has experienced have severely reduced Zephyr's strength today. Add to that the possibility of an asthma attack at any time. The Marine instructor is more suitable for Zephyr than the captain of the pirate guerrilla team, and is safer. Then try to persuade Zephyr to come back. If he comes back, Marineford is much more lively. Garp picked his nose, his face once again changed into a familiar indifferent expression, and then he said carelessly. That guy Galen actually killed Whitebeard II. It's such a waste to put it in West Blue. Now, those 5 old guys don't have enough reasons to block Galen's transfer. Even if the 5 elders want to interfere with the normal transfer of naval headquarters, they need to have a suitable reason. Naval headquarters and New World are Galen's real stages. Sengoku smiled and nodded slightly. At least, in case the Big Mom pirates and the Gangplank pirates really merge. We also have enough combat power to suppress them. In Marineford, a large number of Marine generals were surprised and happy after learning the news that Galen had killed Whitebeard II. In the Holy Land of Mariajoy, most of the 5 elders had complicated expressions after learning that Galen could directly kill Whitebeard II. They originally wanted to restrict Galen to West Blue, suppress Galen's growth, and suppress the strength of naval headquarters. But I never expected that even in West Blue, Galen would still grow to such a point in a short period of time. A combat power that is enough to kill Whitebeard II is no longer something that can be suppressed just by trying to suppress it. Agree to Sengoku's order. Once the Big Mom pirates and the Gangplank pirates merge, it will indeed be a big trouble. The bearded 5 elders sighed and dropped the transfer order that Sengoku had just sent to transfer Galen to the naval headquarters vice admiral on the desk. Sengoku and others can basically decide on their own regarding the transfer of officers below the rank of general in naval headquarters. However, most jobs above the general level need to be approved by the world government. Privately mobilizing a large number of elite combat forces is a taboo no matter which kingdom or government it is. There is no point in trying to suppress him now. Transferring him to naval headquarters will better weaken the Valoran family's influence in West Blue. The other 5 elders also nodded. A mere naval headquarters vice admiral cannot shake the balance of the world. On the contrary, it is the vice admirals who collude with local forces in the local waters and are the major concern of the world government. The news of Galen's powerful killing of Whitebeard II gradually spread throughout the world. Among West Blue, there are countless powerful pirates and killers who have just entered West Blue and are preparing to do whatever they want in West Blue. After learning that even Whitebeard II, who had a bounty of 480 million, died at the hands of Galen, they all put their tail between their legs and started to keep a low profile. They came to West Blue to seize Duke's head and earn the 3 billion Bailey bounty wealth, not to fight with Marine at West Blue. The most important thing is that it seems that I can't beat it even if I try my best. The turmoil in West Blue suddenly subsided a little. But the assassination of Duke never stopped. In the manner of the Valoran family, a special guest was welcomed not long after the death of Whitebeard II. Hey, this is not a place for you to hang out. Have you thought about what kind of job you will do in the next 20 years? Capone. Bej held a cigar in his mouth and slowly walked out from behind a strange blue statue in Valoran Manor. At the window where the fortress fruit protrudes from the body, countless guns are aimed at Capone. In front of Bej is the mysterious man wearing a strange mask. Capone. Bej is responsible for guarding Duke's safety, and also cleans up and recruits countless killers and pirates for Duke. At least, for a long time, some of the most dangerous jobs in West Blue were done by people. But this time, Capone. Bej finally encountered an opponent that was difficult to resist. CP0 number 18 did not speak, just raised his hand gently, and the next second, an extremely sharp flying finger pistol shot directly into Capone. Bej's chest. Then, with a bang, Bej's chest spattered with blood and he fell heavily to the ground. Today's Capone. Bej, although he has been trained for a long time by SETI and the mail gun. But relying on the fruits of the fortified city, it is okay to deal with ordinary naval headquarters colonels. Facing a strong man like CP0 number 18, who has A-level combat power and is comparable to the elite vice admiral of naval headquarters, he is far from a match. Capone. Bej was seriously injured and fell to the ground, but he still retained some consciousness thanks to the powerful defensive capabilities of the fortress fruit. Then came the firing of guns and cannons. Countless disciples in Capone. Bej's body were ready to launch an attack on CP0 number 18. The sound of gunfire and rumbling continued, but CPO number 18 only roared. Iron body, steel. Despite countless gunfire hitting countless sparks on CP0 number 18, he still remained unscathed. Then, he gently raised his leg and made a powerful slash like a crescent moon. It left a deep scratch on the ground of the manor. After breaking through the hail of bullets, it slashed hard at Capone. Bej. Tempest kick broken steel. CP0 No 18's Tempest kick is comparable to a swordsman's flying slash, and is enough to cut through steel with ease. Seeing that Bej was about to be completely overwhelmed by CP0 No 18's slashing blow, the strange blue statue in front of Bej, which was originally motionless. Suddenly he stretched out his heavy hands and directly blocked CP0 No 18's Tempest kick. It is the blue carved golem that has been placed in the manor as a statue since it was extracted by Duke. Commonly known as Blue Buff. The blue glyph golem is not famous for its combat effectiveness, even though it was one of the first prizes summoned by Duke. With the current strength of the blue demonic pattern statue, the most it can do is defeat Bej. But although it is not strong enough, it is hard and meaty enough. The sudden aid from the blue glyph golem startled Bej, who was already a little desperate. Afterwards, his face was full of surprise and fright after the disaster. He never expected that a statue randomly placed in Valoran Manor would seem to be stronger than him. How strong will the senior officials of the Valoran family and Duke, the patriarch of the Valoran family, be? Bej feels that his plan to become a leader is far away and his future is unclear. CP0 number 18 looked at the blue sculptured golem that had received his Tempest Kick's broken steel, but there were only 2 not-so-deep scratches on his arms. He frowned slightly and was about to take some time to chop the golem and Capone Beige into pieces. The next second, Hauser's figure with clenched fists quietly appeared. "Hey, you can't kill that big guy. If you want to fight, why don't you come to me?" The blue buff adds the effect of the Crown of Insight to Sedatic or Graves every day. It would be really embarrassing if one's own blue buff was really killed by the enemy. Valoran Manor is Duke's own jungle area. Senior cadre of the Valoran family, Handhauser. CP0 number 18 looked at the sudden appearance of Risthauser, with a solemn expression, and then said mechanically like a machine. "My target is not you. Let me kill the godfather of the Valoran family, and you can directly become the new patriarch of the Valoran family." CP0 No 18's combat intuition honed in countless brutal battles allowed him to sense the long-lost danger in SETI. As a fighting king who has S-level potential and is either fighting or on the road to fighting every day. Now he has an A+ combat power comparable to that of an ordinary Shichibukai. To put it simply, if Jinbei were on land, SETI could at least be on par with Jinbei now. Even if it weren't for the fact that the higher the level, the more experience is required. At the same time, the environment of West Blue makes it difficult for SETI to provide a large number of powerful enemies for combat. SETI, who fights every day, might be even stronger now. After all, pirates in the real world are not like canyon soldiers who can automatically upgrade over time and continue to provide a lot of experience. There are relatively powerful pirates in the real world, but every one of them is a special NPC that will never be refreshed after death. CP0 number 18 didn't want to fight a bloody battle with SETI, but SETI never thought of letting go of this rare experience monster in front of him. SETI's hands were itching unbearably now. Without saying anything, SETI stepped forward and struck CP018 in the head with a heavy punch. As for letting CP018 kill Duke and become the patriarch of the Valoran family. No joke, all heroes have already been engraved with eternal loyalty to Duke when they are summoned. Without Duke, they wouldn't be where they are now. SETI punched hard, and the terrifying wind of the punch caused many plants behind CP0 number 18 to begin to sway violently. But just when SETI's heavy punch was about to hit CP0 No 18's head, CP0 No 18's body instantly became like a fluttering white paper. Following SETI's fist wind, he kept moving. Without delay, he successfully avoided SETI's heavy punch. But after avoiding this punch, there was another punch. SETI was so excited that he alternated his hands and punched continuously, while CP0 number 18 seemed to be dancing on the tip of a knife. Under SETI's fists, he trembled and dodged wildly. Then, with a bang, CP0 No 18's body was like a rag. After breaking several thick walls. Then it stuck to a wall and finally stopped. CP0 number 18 was bleeding from the corner of his mouth, and there were several gaps in the strange mask on his face. He forcefully pulled out his body from the cracked wall. Then, the battered wall collapsed instantly. Behind the wall, he was preparing to see from a distance who the Duke was who could break through Capone Bege's guards and even required SETI to take action himself. And CP0 number 18 looked at each other. Repairing the manor is very troublesome. Duke scratched his head, looked at the hole that CP0 number 18 had hit all the way, and murmured. As for his own safety, Duke never cared. Are you kidding me? I have the outlaw armor, the banshee veil, and the hex demon drinking knife. Is there anyone in the pirate world who can defeat me? Duke is full of confidence in his ability to survive. Of course, what gave Duke the greatest confidence was. It was still the beautiful figure beside Duke holding a magnificent orb in his hand, swaying gracefully. Nine-Tails Demon Fox Ari is the first hero summoned by Duke with S+ potential. And has been responsible for personally guarding Duke's safety. No one knows how strong Ari is now. CP0 number 18 looked at Duke who suddenly appeared in front of him, a flash of light flashed in his eyes, and he was about to take off Duke's head with all his strength. SETI's figure has appeared again. Hey, you are my opponent. I haven't had enough of it yet. SETI stopped in front of CP0 number 18 and said provocatively. Can you still catch the next punch? CP0 number 18 didn't say anything. He just stared at Duke, who had been watching the battle from afar after SETI appeared, and was ready to fight hard. No one would die if they could. But in the face of God's will, even if it means death, it must be completed. God's command is absolute. Seti leaned back slightly, placed his right fist across his waist, and struck CPO number 18 with a charged punch. The expression under CP0-18's mask suddenly became extremely fanatical, and then faced Seti's heavy punch. Instead of dodging, he turned around and faced Seti's heavy punch directly at a strange angle. Iron body armed steel, shaving Kai armed stainless steel charge. CP0-18 roared secretly, and armament hockey immediately covered his body, intending to receive Seti's charged punch. But it's no use. With a bang, the armament hockey on CPO was instantly broken through by Seti's heavy punch, and the iron body stainless steel used afterwards could not prevent Seti's charged punch at all. Countless ripples appeared on the chest where CP0-18 was hit. The powerful impact made CP0-18's whole body begin to twist and tremble continuously. The clothes on his back were torn directly, and a huge, purple and bloody fist mark appeared instantly. CP0-18 vomited blood, and his body was hit hard by Seti's charged punch. But on the face of CP0-18, who was shot away, there was no pain or loneliness of failure and serious injury, but only an extremely cold killing intent. He indeed failed to block Seti's punch, but he also succeeded in achieving his plan. The direction in which he was knocked away and the shave he used when he was hit was exactly where Duke was. With just one blow, CP0-18 believed that he could successfully take Duke's life and complete God's mission. Most of the agents in CPO are dead soldiers trained and brainwashed by the world government since childhood. Life returned. Life explodes. CP0-18's body that was shot away gradually approached Duke, and then, when it was about to approach Duke, CP0-18's broken body, covered with wounds, instantly stopped bleeding. The damaged internal organs and broken bones and muscles were also temporarily forcibly adhered to each other under the influence of life-returning force. Then, CP0-18's whole body suddenly erupted with a burst of blood mist. The internal organs, bones and muscles that had been forcibly adhered to each other were completely shattered due to the forcible explosion. Such an injury, even with the monster-like physique and recovery ability of the average person in the pirate world. CP0-18 is also an afterthought and will undoubtedly die. But before CP0-18 died, it was enough for him to deliver a fatal blow to Duke. Flying finger pistol, broken jade. Then, just before CP0's flying finger pistol was about to hit Duke, a magnificent orb emerged quietly, instantly crushing the broken jade of Fey finger pistol, and at the same time penetrated the heart of CP0-18. In the distance, Capone Beige, who had just arrived despite his injuries, was completely dumbfounded. Why, is there anyone in this manor who is better than me? Aries' usual identity is the head maid of Valoran Manor. But who says the head maid can't be a top-notch strong person? CP0-18 was easily killed by Ari, who was usually quiet, and Capone Beige was so frightened that he shuddered. I once again have a somewhat clear understanding of the mysterious power of the Valoran family and Valoran Manor. He didn't forget. In the manor, except for those powerful people who have been exposed so far, Duke can continue to perform high-intensity training every day that is difficult for ordinary people to understand, and there is no way he is a weakling. In Capone Beige's eyes, Duke is the real monster. At least, he had never heard of anyone with such perfect physical strength. Fanatic armor, the eternal god. After Capone Beige was surprised, he began to recuperate silently, and the blue-carved golem also returned to its original fountain and quietly acted as a statue. It's just that when Capone Beige patrols Valoran Manor in the future, he will never dare to despise any item in Valoran Manor, even if it's just a statue, or a strange-looking tree in the nearby forest. Calm returned to Valoran Manor once again. Only Duke looked at the corpse of CP0-18 and frowned silently. Why did CP0 come to mess with me? I remember that I didn't offend the world government during this time. Duke is in West Blue, but he is a good and law-abiding person. Duke silently remembered world government's small book in his mind, and planned to find something to do for world government when he had the opportunity, so that world government would not cause trouble for him all day long. In the Holy Land Mariajoy, the 5 elders who had just learned that the paper of life on CP018 had been burned had gloomy expressions on their faces. Pirates and members of organized forces in the 4 seas have almost never heard of or rarely use such things as life paper. But for the world government elite CP0, life paper is obviously standard for them. I just received news that there was quite a commotion in Valoran Manor, and the time when the commotion subsided was basically the same as the time of CP0's death on the 18th. It seems that the Valoran family of West Blue really gave us a big surprise. The blonde 5 elders said he was surprised, but there was no hint of joy on his face. Even if all CP0 is just a tool used by the world government to maintain the order of God, but a good tool is suddenly destroyed, it still makes the 5 elders feel a little angry. The combat power of Vice Admiral, the elite of this department, can definitely be regarded as the elite of any force or organization in the pirate world. Even the world government's elite Vice Admiral combat power that can be mobilized at will is extremely limited. Some of the elite Vice Admirals in the naval headquarters may not obey all orders from the world government. Or even if Ming Ming's resistance is not enough, if it is to fish and swim, the world government really has no good way to use the high-level combat power of the naval headquarters. The family that dares to support the Shadow Stream and the funeral home will certainly not be weak. Longbeard 5 elders calm Kaido. But the question now is, should we send a stronger CP0 to kill that guy and end the turmoil in West Blue? If we want to ensure that we can kill that guy successfully, we may have to mobilize at least the first 6. But number 6 is performing a mission in New World. Should number 5 or number 4 be dispatched? Quote, there are only 100 CP0s, and the combat power of the top 20 numbered ones is far greater than the others. The combat power of the top 10 and the top 6 is even more powerful. As the king of the dark world, queen of the pleasure district Stussy, who can instantly kill the lone shark king with one flying finger pistol, is the number 6 in CP0. There's no need. The curly-haired 5 elders shook his head slightly, frowned and said, according to the intelligence we received before, CP018 should be enough to complete our mission. But now, he only made a little noise within the Valoran family, and then he died there. Will number 4 or number 5 definitely be able to complete the mission? If you lose CP0 number 18, we can quickly replace it. Once number 4 or number 5 is lost, it will be very troublesome to find a suitable member. Quote, even for the world government, it is difficult to recruit a large number of top powerful people in a short period of time. Then let that guy go like this. The bald 5 elders are holding first-generation Kidetsu with murderous intent. Our goal right now has never been to just kill the guy. Galen killed Whitebeard II, and the unrest in West Blue has temporarily subsided. There is no need for us to continue to intervene in the battle between the funeral home and the Valoran family. Let those guys kill each other, we only need to control the balance of this sea, and that will be enough. Some bald 5 elders are also opposed to continuing to attack Duke. The Big Mom pirates are very likely to merge with the Gangplank pirates. This is the big trouble we need to consider. Once they complete their merger, it will be enough to shake the balance of the entire world. Big Mom's upcoming tea party is the focus of the 5 elders. There cannot be another rocks pirate in this ocean. CP018, who possesses the elite Vice Admiral combat power of the headquarters and once assassinated a pirate with a bounty of 400 million, disappeared silently into the sea, as if he had never existed. And just entering the first half of the Grand Line, there is the great pirate Blood Wolf Hog with a bounty of 290 million, as well as the powerful New World killer pirates such as the brothers Guiley and Fanku. Still dreaming of winning the 3 billion Bailey bounty. It takes a lot of time to reach West Blue from New World. Not everyone has the ability to cross the Com Belt, and not all pirate groups can be like Red Hair. It takes 2 days to get directly to naval headquarters from New World. The only way for most pirates to return to the first half of the Grand Line from the New World is to return the same way they came. And just before they could enter West Blue, Lord Zed of Shadowstream and Tai Lung and others have successfully crossed the Com Belt with the help of Janna. On a small island, he quietly intercepted the King of Killers, the big-handed Undertaker Picro, who was on his way to Big Mom's tea party. Janna is the embodiment of wind, and wind can also become Janna's eyes. Ha 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 ha, Freddy. It seems that we are really underestimated. Picro looked at the Shadow Stream Lord Gia and others who suddenly appeared in front of him. He grinned from the corner of his mouth to his ears, revealing the dense white fang. In a clown-like tone, he said with an exaggerated smile. Are you here to die? Picro was already prepared. After attending Big Mom's tea party, he would enter West Blue and destroy the entire Shadow Stream. But now, they haven't waited for them to successfully attack Shadow Stream. Gia and others have already taken the lead and come to the door. No one can escape their shadow. Are you ready to fall into eternity? The Lord of the Shadow Stream, Gia Sushin, said. Behind him the Blade Shadow Tai Lung and Dasbonis and others, their eyes were full of murderous intent. It's time to end the feud between Undertaker and Shadow Stream. After today, the Shadow Flow will definitely dominate the darkness. Without saying anything, behind Picro, the shadow of Zed quietly appeared, and the invisible blade in his hand stabbed directly into Picro's heart. And Tai Lung also disappeared in an instant after leaving behind countless blades. The next second, the hidden sword and countless blades in Tyrone's hand had already hit the black swordsman Freddy. Dasbonis led a small number of elite assassins from the Shadow Stream, and faced off against several ordinary cadres and assassins of the funeral home. Just going to Big Mom's Camellia party, of course Picro could not bring all the elites under his command. With the dice fruit as an Iron Man, Dasbonis can basically ignore their attacks when facing enemies without armament hockey or who are not swordsmen. But even if it is just a few ordinary cadres in the funeral home, most of their weapons have a little black color. Hockey is very common in the New World. As the masters of the killer field in the Dark World, most of the ordinary cadres of the funeral home have basically mastered hockey. However, the Dasbonis of today is no longer the Dasbonis of the past. After experiencing the crushing of Blood Duke Dracula, he saw the vastness of the world, and initially awakened armament hockey. Today's Dasbonis is even more powerful than it was 3 years later in the original time and space. Dasbonis once swore that he would never be as powerless as before. The dice fruit Iron Man, coupled with the skilled armament hockey, allowed Dasbonis to never fall behind even if there were more than one enemy. But Dasbonis knew very well that the key to victory or defeat was never with him. With his strength, he is still far from the true peak of this sea. The invisible blade of the Lord of Shadow Stream stabbed Picro from behind to his heart, and then pierced directly. But there was no joy of success on Zed's face. Instead, his figure moved instantly and instantly exchanged places with the shadow behind Picro. Then the next second, Picro, whose heart was pierced, brandished the extremely sharp Shinigami sickle and suddenly attacked, directly cutting Zed's shadow into 2 halves. Hehehehe, are you able to dodge my attack? You are qualified to be the 467th. Pietro chuckled strangely. The number 466 was clearly visible on the clothes on his chest. Every time Picro kills a powerful enemy, a number will be added to his chest. But as his strength grows, there are fewer and fewer enemies who are qualified to be the number on his chest. 5 years later, when Luffy went on a rampage on Cake Island, the number on his chest had only grown to 499. Ignore normal attacks. Zed didn't reply, just silently thinking about how to kill the enemy in front of him. As one of the most powerful emperors in the Dark World, Picro, the king of assassins and the big-handed mortician, undoubtedly possesses the combat power of an S-Emperor deputy level. As a killer, without excellent strength, he would have died in the hands of the enemy long ago. I am the incarnation of death. How can someone who is already dead be killed again? Quote. Picro smiled ferociously, his 5-pointed star-like eyes flashing with a strange red light. Picro, the king of killers, once took the Paramecia Necronomicon fruit, which allowed him to transform himself into a dead spirit and ignore conventional attacks. Picro and Zed tested each other's moves, and then started fighting crazily. Picro and Zed's figures kept intertwining, like the best dancers in the world, ready to strike a fatal blow at any time. The battle between Black Swordsman Freddy and Blade Shadow Talon is not so weird and changeable. Just the constant collision between the blade and the blade. Zed has the power of shadow, and Picro has taken the fruit of death. As for Black Swordsman Freddy and Blade Shadow Talon, they only rely on the sharp blades in their hands. Black Swordsman Freddy kept swinging the big sword Demon Slash in his hand, slashing out 1,000 blades of light, while Tai Lung's figure kept flashing around Black Swordsman Freddy. While avoiding Freddy's sword light, he used the hidden sword in his hand again and again. It stabbed Freddy's vital part at an angle that ordinary people could hardly guard against. But every time, Freddy, who possessed pure observation Haki, successfully blocked it with his sword. Freddy, who is famous all over the world just by relying on the sword in his hand without taking any devil fruit, is undoubtedly a good Haki player. The sharp hidden sword constantly collided fiercely with the big sword demon slash, spattering countless sparks. But every time the sword blades collide, Tai Lung, who was originally like the wind, will continue to retreat. Black Swordsman Freddy has an A-level combat power comparable to the Naval Headquarters Elite Vice Admiral, coupled with the proficient two-color Haki. In an instant, Tai Lung, who was still at a low level, was completely suppressed. But for some reason, every time Freddy's blade is about to hit Talon, the shadow of the blade, there is always a strange shield, quietly hindering Black Swordsman Freddy's attack, preventing him from severely damaging Blade's shadow Talon. On the contrary, in the constant confrontation with Tai Lung, waves of strange and incomparable energy seemed to be continuously superimposed and gathered in his body. The edge of a knife can sometimes be enough to kill someone. In the void, an almost transparent cyan bird was quietly flapping its wings, always paying attention to the battlefield. Janna, the Fury of the Storm, never left after assisting Lord Zed of Shadowstream and others in finding Picro and others. Black Swordsman Freddy and Blade Shadow Talon were in a stalemate, and it was hard to tell the winner. As for the battle between Zed, the Lord of Shadowstream, and Picro, the battle situation was strange and changeable, and it was completely impossible to tell who had the upper hand. But on the other side, Dazbonis led a small number of elite killers from the Shadowstream, and he had already secured victory. Faced with a powerful blow from an ordinary cadre of the funeral home, which beheaded Cook, Dazbonis did not dodge. He just silently activated armament Haki and dice fruit to transform into an armed steel body. He allowed the sword that beheaded Cook to stab countless sparks in his neck. Then he stretched out his hand and slashed horizontally, decapitating Cook. His head suddenly flew into the sky, spurting out a large amount of blood. Is this what it feels like to be beheaded? The decapitated Cook's head rolled to the side, and his eyes gradually dimmed. Cook, the funeral home cadre who had beheaded countless people, finally had his head beheaded this time. Decapitating Cook's death is just the beginning. With the terrifying defense ability brought by armament Haki superimposed on dice fruit. When Dazbonis faced the enemy, he did not dodge at all. Even if he withstood hundreds of blows from the enemy, he would still leave a shallow wound on the enemy's body. Soon, the other two ordinary cadres who followed Picro to Cake Island were also forcibly killed by Dazbonis. And the remaining elite killers are not worth mentioning. Dazbonis deals with masters of powerful armament Haki, or Haki masters who are good enough to use emission. With his current level of armament and the tempering of dice fruit, he can't resist it at all. But facing those soldiers who didn't break through their defenses, Dazbonis didn't even need to activate his weapon color, he was enough to kill them randomly. When it comes to food abuse, Dazbonis is a professional. Seeing that 3 ordinary cadres and a large number of elite killers were killed one after another, Freddy and Tyrone could not tell the winner for a while. Picro, who originally wanted to find a good opportunity to kill with one strike, could no longer hold back. After a ferocious smile flashed across his face, he actually took the initiative to meet the sharp blade in Zed's hand, and when he was pierced by the sharp blade, the Shinigami sickle in his hand instantly turned pitch black and slashed hard at Zed's head. Picro wanted to resolve the battle as quickly as possible. If all the ordinary cadres and minions were dead, Picro wouldn't want to sail with Freddy to attend Big Mom's banquet. But just when Picro's Shinigami scythe was about to hit Zed, Zed suddenly raised his head. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and then under the blade, his body instantly turned into a shadow and rushed towards Picro. Picro wanted to resolve the battle as soon as possible, and Zed had been waiting for an opportunity to kill with one strike. I have seen through your ability. Forbidden secret, instant prison shadow killing formation. Zed roared, turned into a shadow, and the sword in his hand also turned into a shadow. Together with his shadow clone, it left countless scars on Picro's body. The power of shadow mixed with armament hockey continued to cut and crush Picro's body, but Picro still had a sneer on his face. I am death, I am immortal, Picro said ferociously. His eyes were scarlet, and his whole body revealed an aura of death, decay and decay. When Picro activates his fruit power, he is no different from a real undead. The dead will not die unless Picro's undead body is completely reduced to pieces. Otherwise, most of the attacks that would be fatal to ordinary people would be meaningless to Picro. Picro suddenly stretched out his pale left hand and grabbed Zed's arm. The Shinigami scythe in his right hand was turned upside down and swung violently, piercing through both the calamity and his own body at the same time. Caught you. Relying on the immortality brought by the undead fruit, Picro had killed many enemies who were slightly stronger than him. The sharp blade of the death scythe mercilessly penetrated the bodies of Zed and Picro. But there was no trace of bloodline on Gia, who was pierced by the death scythe, only a slight sneer flashed across his face. Then, it instantly turned into a black mist and slowly dissipated into the void. Do you think you can catch the shadow? Behind Picro, Zed's deep voice came quietly, and then he jumped back suddenly, avoiding another horizontal slash after Picro pulled out the death scythe. He, what a magical ability. Is it the higher level fruit of the shadow fruit? Picro said with a smile, but his face no longer had the calmness it once had. What a troublesome enemy. Do you want to stop here? I'm still busy going to a party. The vast sea may be able to accommodate two powerful killer organizations at the same time. Picro saw that he could not win for a while, and the fight between Black Swordsman Freddy and Tyrone also reached a stalemate, hoping to end the battle temporarily. Of course, the so-called sea can accommodate two powerful killers at the same time, which is just fart. As the king of the killer field in the dark world, Picro never thought of sharing the glory of the king of killers with others. All he wants is to delay time. Then, together with Happy Street and more people, completely destroy the Shadow Stream. The funeral home and Happy Street have reached an alliance not long ago, and will jointly destroy the Shadow Stream after Big Mom's tea party. After learning about the powerful combat power that Shadow Stream now possesses, Picro felt that if he had to pay a little more, it seems good to include some other people in the plan to annihilate the Shadow Stream. Luffield, the king of loan sharks, has always been coveting the powerful combat power of the funeral home. Loan sharking requires a large number of powerful thugs or killers to use coercion, inducement, and violent collection. But unfortunately, he ran out of time. Zed looked at Picro, who had issued an invitation for a truce, but did not reply. He just turned around silently and began to slowly walk towards the battlefield where Freddy and Tyrone were. The next second, accompanied by the whisper of the wind, Picro's body returned from the undead state to the normal state. Countless shadow powers instantly erupted from Picro's body. Before Picro had time to react, his entire body exploded into a ball of blood mist. The ignorant are doomed. The remaining limbs were flying, and Picro's bloody head was rolling. His eyes were filled with astonishment. The undead fruit can turn itself into a dead body, ignoring almost all conventional fatal injuries. Then after transforming into a human body, the damage sustained when the undead body was in the body will be quickly recovered or even disappear. But there is only one weakness. If you remain in the state of the undead body for a long time, it will be continuously eroded by the power of the undead. It will no longer be able to be transformed into a living body, and can only remain in the state of an undead forever. No one wants to lose all sense of touch, gradually decay and become a real walking zombie. Picro died, and after seeing Picro's blood-covered head, Black Swordsman Freddy slashed violently, forcing Talon back, temporarily stopping the battle. Dracula is like this, are you like this too? Fruit power is never omnipotent, why did you also make this mistake? Black Swordsman Freddy had no expression on his face. He just held the big sword Demon Slayer tightly in his hand and said coldly. Sure enough, in this sea, there are truly trustworthy people. You will always only have the sword in your hand. After Black Swordsman Freddy finished speaking, he remained silent for a moment. He looked at the Blade Shadow Tai Lung and the Shadow Stream Lord Zed who were gradually surrounding them. With a scrape, he returned the sword to its sheath. Then he looked directly into Gia's eyes and said in a deep voice. We have no reason to continue fighting. The title of King of Killers is yours. And as the new king of the Dark World, maybe you will need my sword. Black Swordsman Freddy is willing to follow Pyrecrow just because Pyrecrow can satisfy Black Swordsman Freddy's bloodthirsty desire to kill. When Pietro was still alive, Freddy was the sharpest blade in Pietro's hands. But now, Pyrecrow is dead. Black Swordsman Freddy felt that maybe it was time to find a new leader for himself. The new king of killers, Lord Zed of Shadowstream, who can kill Pyrecrow, seems to be very good. Killers in the dark have no so-called loyalty. Most of them just take money to do things. Well, welcome aboard, true shadow. Zed thought for a moment and said in a low voice. Tai Lung, Dasbonis and others put away the sharp blades in their hands. In the void, a green transparent bird slowly melted into the wind. Facing the powerful combat power of Black Swordsman Freddy, Zed had no reason to refuse. Shadowstream is just a killer organization. The killer organization always needs a large number of powerful killers to complete simple or difficult tasks one after another. Zed, Tai Lung, and Dasbonis are too busy. Of course, the most important thing is that Zed needs the Black Swordsman Freddy to assist him and take over the entire funeral home. As the most powerful killer organization in the pirate world, the Undertaker has killers and cadres all over the sea. The killers and cadres who died on this unknown island with Pyrecrow today are only a very small part. Time passed quietly, and laughter continued on Cake Island, just like a paradise in a dream, with endless food and a river that always flows with milk. For ordinary people, Cake Island is simply the legendary Promised Land. If they don't know, this is actually the territory of the most moody and cruel four emperors. Big Mom. A grand banquet is about to be held. Hasn't that guy Pyrecrow arrived yet? Really, it's not polite at all to make a lady wait. Stussy covered her mouth and snickered, but a hint of doubt quietly flashed in her eyes. Under normal circumstances, it would be impossible for Pyrecrow to have not arrived at Cake Island by now. Who cares about the guy in charge of the funeral? Maybe it would be better if he didn't come. The king of loan sharks, Fushinlu Field, said greedily. He is the one with almost the most wealth among all the kings of the dark world present. The massive loan sharking allowed him to harvest countless bloody wealth. But at the same time, he can only focus on the way some weak businessmen or civilians lend money. Field. The strength of his subordinates is also the weakest. He lacks top-level combat power, and those powerful pirates or forces never think of paying back the money they borrow based on their ability. He has always longed to enter the realm of killers in the dark world, firmly control a large number of top killers, and then make his money empire stronger and stronger. If Pietro offended Big Mom because he was late, then, this might be his opportunity to enter the killer field. This is big news. It would be such a shame if he doesn't come. Press giant Morgans was looking around and taking pictures, searching for traces of the Gangplank pirates. This is not big news in the underground world. There is no value in moving at all. But that guy Pyrecrow should be on my ship. Shipping King Umit said impatiently. At least, deep ocean currents are never late. The news that the Big Mom pirates will marry and merge with the Gangplank pirates is not a big secret in the underground world. The warehouse King Gibberson, who is also one of the kings of the dark world, did not complain and just kept pouring wine into his stomach. As the oldest king in the dark world, the reason why Jibotson's warehousing business can always exist in the dark world is: the key is to drink more, talk less, and meddle less. Pyrecrow was nowhere to be seen at the port of Cake Island, and the face of Perospero, the minister of confectionery in charge of reception, gradually became gloomy. Big Mom hates being late. Even the king of the dark world must pay a price for his rash absence from Big Mom's tea party. But at this moment, the gloom on Painsparot's face quietly dissipated and turned into a bright smile. In the distance, Pyrecrow's ship has appeared. But before Perospero was ready to meet Pyrecrow, looking at the figures coming out of Pyrecrow's boat, Perospero, Stussy and others suddenly opened their eyes in shock, and the expressions on their faces began to change. Big news, ha ha ha, this is really big news. Morgans kept taking pictures of Zed. When Zed appeared from Pyrecrow's ship, it already represented the earth-shaking of the world of killers in the dark world. This is undoubtedly big news. Stussy covered her mouth with a soft smile on her face, keeping her inner surprise and hostility towards Zed and others firmly hidden in her heart, and said softly to Zed, "If you need information, just come to me." I will definitely give you the best deal. The funeral home is over, and establishing a good relationship with Shadowstream will help Stussy obtain more information. Stussy and the world government are very curious, how strong are Shadowstream and the Valoran family? Are you the new king? Today seems to be a really good day. Shipping King Umit glanced at Warehouse King Gibberson in a vague way, and expressed his goodwill to Zed. Umit has no intention of intervening in the killer realm of the Dark World. If possible, he has always wanted to annex all the storage terminals in Gibson. The combination of deep current shipping and hidden docks with old warehouses all over the world is a force that can truly influence the entire world. It's a pity that Umid never found a suitable opportunity. The warehouse king, Gibberson, smiled drunkenly at Zed, and then continued to drink wine. Expressing goodwill prematurely has no meaning. The one who truly survives to the end is the king. Gibberson is solid. However, after a flash of greed flashed in the eyes of the lone shark King Lufield, he began to attack Gia directly. Picro's death created an excellent opportunity for him to enter the realm of killers. The premise is to suppress the sudden shadow flow. Hey, they are not invited to this party. Kill the guests invited by the master and dare to come directly to the banquet. The master may not welcome it. Lufield began to act strangely, trying to provoke a conflict between the Big Mom pirates and Zed, or at least prevent Shadowstream from attending Big Mom's tea party. Big Mom's tea party invited a large number of prominent New World figures. Not attending Big Mom's tea party is undoubtedly very dangerous, but attending Big Mom's tea party also has a lot of gains. The connections and recognition of a large number of forces in New World are very important to the killer industry. Some relatively secretive things can only be done by the most reliable organizations. But Perospero did not show any hostility towards Zed and others who came to the banquet after killing Picro. Instead, with a bright smile, he welcomed Zed and the others who came out of Picro's ship with great welcome. Mom would be very happy if she knew you were coming to her tea party. What Perospero welcomes and awaits is the identity of the Assassin King of the Dark World and the power behind this identity, rather than a specific person. We are also very honored to be able to participate in 4 Emperors Big Mom's tea party. Especially, this one. Zed's dull voice revealed incomprehensible information through the mask. The Emperors of the Dark World present also had mysterious smiles on their faces at this time. Including the Queen of the Pleasure District, who had originally made an appointment to destroy the Shadowstream together with the funeral home. This is a feast destined to be famous all over the world. And the real protagonist slowly appears at this time. At the end of the sea, a huge and ferocious pirate ship suddenly jumped out of the sea level. And behind it, a large number of battle-hardened and weathered pirate ships followed, immediately covering the entire ocean. The legendary pirate ocean calamity Gangplank, who had a bounty of 1.85 billion, showed up boldly with his fleet, which had expanded to 5,000 people. In the world of pirates, strong strength and reputation can always allow those big pirates to easily recruit a large number of subordinates. Hehehehe, what a spectacular pirate fleet. If I get his permission, Mom will definitely become the pirate king. Perospero stuck out his long tongue, licked the lollipop cane in his hand, and said excitedly. The Big Mom Pirate Group, which has already confirmed several merger plans with the Gangplank Pirate Group, does not think that Gangplank will be their enemy. Especially, this is Cake Island, the home base of 4 Emperors Big Mom. It is simply impossible for a pirate fleet of only 5,000 people to challenge directly the tens of thousands of Cake Island's home its core and the large number of cadres of the Big Mom Pirate Group. Of course, although I don't think Gangplank would be bold enough to attack Cake Island directly. But just in case, the Big Mom Pirates sent a large number of soldiers and cadres to station at the port, waiting for the arrival of the Gangplank Pirates. Fortunately, everything seemed so normal. Gangplank led the Grogus of Grogus and the Ghost of Blood Harbor Pike, and they followed Perospero quickly to the banquet hall. The rest of the cadres and subordinates did not go ashore at all. Under the watchful eye of a large number of Big Mom Pirate Group cadres and elite soldiers, they were minding their own business and held a banquet on the ship. There are a total of 5,000 elite members of the remaining pirate groups. No matter how confident Big Mom is, he will never dare to put them all into Cake Island rashly. They may not be the opponents of the Homit's Legion on Cake Island, but they really have to attend the banquet together, just in case something unexpected happens. The entire Cake Island is very likely to be destroyed. Katakuri looked at the pirates under Gangplank, who were happily holding a banquet at the port in a very disciplined manner, frowned slightly, and said solemnly, "Does a guy like Plank really want to join Mom? Owen and Dafu, take care of these pirates. I want to go to my mother. I always feel like something is wrong." Katakuri quickly turned around to attend the banquet, and at the port of Cake Island. Owen and Daifuku are the backbone of the Big Mom pirate group, leading a large number of Homit's soldiers. He and the pirates under Gangplank maintained a superficial peace while being wary of each other. In the Cake Castle, the banquet has officially begun. Well, have you ever thought about marrying that daughter of mine? All my daughters are yours to choose from, Big Mom said excitedly to Gangplank, Beryl Gragas, Pike and others beside him. Glank, come, become my vice captain, become my family, and become one with my nations. As long as you join me, I will definitely become the Pirate King. At that time, everyone in the world can sit together and eat cake as equals. Just thinking about it makes me really happy. Sister, my sister, do you see that too? When Big Mom said this, she put her hands together and leaned on her cheeks, staring at the photo of the Carmelite nun on her dining table with great admiration like a little girl, and said in anticipation, "Sister Carmelite is the most special existence for Big Mom. Big news, the Gangplank pirates and the Big Mom pirates have merged into one. The most terrifying pirate group in the world is about to be born." Quote. Near the dining table, Big News Morgans kept taking photos, and Stussy and other emperors of the Dark World were also waiting for Gangplank's answer. This will be a marriage that can affect the entire world. From the position of general to deputy captain directly, Gragas and Pike can also marry the daughter of Big Mom. I have to say, this is indeed a good condition. At least Big Mom really wants to marry the Gangplank pirates this time. Rather than treating the clone army of Germa 66, which intends to directly annex the kingdom of Germa. But if you can be the captain, who would want to be the deputy captain? Gangplank quietly glanced at the picture of Sister Carmel, and at the same time glanced at Katakuri next to Big Mom. A glimmer of light quietly flashed in his eyes, and he said in a deep voice, "Of course, we are here to become one with all nations. However, I never thought about becoming someone else's vice captain." After Gangplank finished speaking, under Katakuri's sudden expression, the loaded pistol in his hand exploded instantly. A fatal bullet hit the photo of the Carmelite nun. "How do you know?" Katakuri's face changed drastically, and a jelly bean in his hand was shot out at the same time as the bullet in Gangplank's hand, intending to stop Gangplank from taking action. Sister Carmelite is the most special to Big Mom, and is also the most fatal weakness. When Sister Carmelite's photo is destroyed, Big Mom will lose consciousness and howl in pain. At the same time, even the terrifying defense power that she is most proud of will be greatly reduced in an instant. Big Mom is born with the terrifying defense power of a steel balloon. Ever since he went to sea, he has never left any scars on his body no matter what opponents he faces for decades. Her children have never seen Big Mom injured. Of course, with 2 armor-breaking artifacts and Gangplank, who has a strange fire that can directly burn life, he doesn't actually care too much about how strong other people's defenses are. Even if he goes head-to-head with Big Mom, Gangplank, who is equipped with 3 pieces of ready-made equipment and a thorn vest, may not lose to Big Mom. However, if you can obviously take advantage of the enemy's weaknesses and win easily, why do you have to challenge yourself head-on to make it more difficult? Gangplank is a scheming and ruthless pirate king, not a righteous knight who advocates fairness and justice. Gangplank may be able to fight Big Mom alone, but Gragas, Blood Harbor Ghost Pike, and the Ocean Disaster Fleet cannot deal with the entire Big Mom pirate group. The bullet came out of the chamber, gunfire exploded, and the bullet that was spiraling in the air suddenly collided with the jelly beans shot by Katakuri. Then, in front of the rotating and burning fatal bullets, the jelly beans instantly deformed, melted, and even completely shattered. Compared to Gangplank, who was definitely considered the strongest among the admirals at this time, Katakuri's hastily thrown jelly beans were too weak. Being able to predict the future does not necessarily mean that you can change the future. The bullet continued to advance, but Katakuri, who wanted to stop the bullet again, didn't have time to take action. Gragas body bomb impact and Blood Harbor Ghost Pike's bone-penetrating spikes are already close at hand. Mom, be careful, Katakuri hurriedly warned, and at the same time, his hands instantly became extremely dark, and he crossed them in front of his chest, directly blocking the impact of Gragas' flesh bullets. Blood Harbor Ghost Pike's bone-penetrating spikes penetrated directly through Katakuri's chest, which had become hollow in advance. Katakuri, who possesses the observation haki to foresee the future, may not have the best attack and defense power among the lieutenants. But as long as he can't find a way to crack his observation haki, which can predict the future, even if there are several Imperial lieutenants with the same level of combat power as him. For a while, it was difficult to leave any scars on his body. Katakuri's dodge was almost fully activated, but while Big Mom's defense was fully activated, his reaction was relatively sluggish. In other words, the terrifying defensive power of the innate steel balloon allows her to face attacks from most people in the pirate world. There is no need to dodge or react quickly. One blow after another, she would often remain unscathed, while the enemy would be killed immediately. But at this moment, Big Mom's reaction ability, which she never paid much attention to, became her first step towards failure. The extremely sharp warhead, after smashing the blocking jelly beans, deformed slightly, and then directly pierced the forehead of the Carmelite nun in the photo. Then, with a click, countless cracks quickly expanded from Carmelo's forehead to the entire photo. The smile on Carmelite's face was shattered and scattered all over the place at this moment. On the side, the Dark Emperors, who were originally preparing to witness the merger of the Gangplank pirates and the Big Mom pirates, were filled with astonishment. Big Mom, on the other hand, after watching Sister Carmelite being torn apart before her eyes, her whole body trembled and her eyes instantly turned white. Then, a terrifying scream suddenly resounded throughout the entire banquet. The terrifying screams mixed with Big Mom's subconscious release of Conqueror's haki immediately swept the entire banquet hall. The dining table was overturned, and countless delicacies with souls trembled under the screams of Big Mom. After losing all consciousness, they were scattered on the ground. But at this time, no one cares about those delicious food. Because under Big Mom's terrifying screams, there were countless weaker guests who lost consciousness along with the homies' food. The weak guests fainted and fell to the ground. The powerful cadres and the emperors of the Dark World also hurriedly covered their ears because of Big Mom's terrifying scream. However, the battle did not stop because of Big Mom's terrifying screams. Instead, it just started. Amid Katakuri's angry and anxious roar, the scimitar in Gangplank's hand had pierced Big Mom's heart. No, Mom! The heart was pierced, and Big Mom's terrifying screams stopped instantly. Big Mom's children and cadres finally came to their senses from the screams of Big Mom. As well as the emperors of the Dark World, they all looked at this scene in disbelief. Big news, big news. This is really big news that can shock the world. Morgans was extremely excited to take photos, and the other emperors of the Dark World also had weird smiles on their faces when they looked at the cadres of the Big Mom pirates. If Big Mom is really killed directly by Gangplank, then, the entire Cake Island and even all nations will undoubtedly become a big fat piece of new world. How is it possible? Mom is invincible. The emperors of the Dark World began to make their own plans silently in their hearts, and many lived under the fear of Big Mom all year round. At the same time, the children who have early established the belief that Big Mom is invincible in their hearts. When he watched Plank insert the scimitar in his hand into Big Mom's heart, his belief suddenly collapsed and he collapsed to the ground helplessly. However, any of the children of Big Mom can fall, but Katakuri can never fall. In order to protect his family, Katakuri's heart has long been as hard as iron. Everyone, get up, kill those intruders, and avenge Mother. Katakuri dodged to avoid the siege of Gragas and Pike, and roared angrily. His suspicions about Plank came true, but unfortunately, he had no ability to prevent it. Perospero, the eldest son of the Charlotte family, also came to his senses amidst Katakuri's roar. He tightened his grip on the candy cane in his hand, stared at Gangplank and the others, and shouted loudly. Kill them, kill everyone in the Gangplank pirates. The battle started again, and a large number of Big Mom's children and cadres rushed towards Gangplank and others. However, just when many children and cadres of the Big Mom pirates were extremely sad and angry, a hint of surprise quietly flashed across Katakori's face. Mother. The next second, his eyes turned white, and Big Mom, who had lost all consciousness, regained consciousness due to severe pain. He made a fist with his right hand and hit Gangplank in front of him with great force. When the heavy punch came, Gangplank frowned slightly and turned and pulled the scimitar in his hand. Before Big Mom's heavy punch came, with the flesh and blood of countless Big Mom, he retreated instantly. When he retreated violently, the pistol in Gangplank's hand did not forget to shoot a fatal bullet into the horrific wound he left on Big Mom's chest. The strange fire on Plank's scimitar continued to burn all the internal organs in Big Mom's body. The scorched and damaged heart that had been pierced by the scimitar had stopped beating. Big Mom's chest was filled with blood, and dark blood was constantly seeping out of her 7 orifices. But even so, Big Mom is still not dead. A strong man in the world of pirates, a monster with an average physique, especially for a monster among monsters like the 4 emperors. Injuries that would have been fatal to ordinary people could not send them to hell in a short while. During the Summit War, Whitebeard was able to receive a blow from the filial sword first, and then was attacked by numerous bullets, artillery shells, and swords. Even when Akainu's lava burned a big hole in his chest and burned off half of his head, he was still able to blast Blackbeard before finally dying. A monster like Big Mom who is born with extraordinary physique can still live for at least a few more minutes even if he loses his heart. And these few minutes are enough for the world to understand what the real 4 emperors are. The real 4 emperors are not so easily defeated. Big Mom endured the severe pain, suddenly pinched a large piece of soul from his body, stuffed it into his mouth, and then said angrily to Gangplank, "Don't even think about defeating me like this. None, my none, you idiot, I'm going to tear you to pieces." The soul is life force, and Big Mom consumes its own life force. You can quickly recover from your injuries and even enhance your strength. 5 years later, in the decisive battle on Ghost Island, Big Mom only consumed 1 year of his lifespan, and his strength increased greatly, and he beat Kid and Luo to the ground. But this time, she spent 5 years of her life just to recover from her injuries. Big Mom was able to reach the top of the 4 emperors, in addition to her terrifying innate physique. The powerful devil fruit, soul fruit, also helped a lot. The soul fruit is definitely one of the most powerful devil fruits in the pirate world. After his soul entered his body, Big Mom's horrific injuries began to recover quickly. Countless granules are growing in tangles, and the muscles are also squirming crazily. With a clanking sound, the bullet that Plank shot into Big Mom's body was squeezed to the ground by the squirming muscles. The hideous and terrifying wound on Big Mom's chest healed slowly. Even the blackened and damaged heart in the body gradually regained its color and began to beat slowly and powerfully. Katakori and other Big Mom's children who wanted to avenge Big Mom saw the rapid recovery of Big Mom's injuries, and the grief and anger on their faces instantly turned into surprise. Mom is invincible. No one can beat Mom. Just as the captains of the Whitebeard pirate group firmly believe that Whitebeard is always invincible, the members of the 4 emperors group often have invincible confidence in their captains. The children and cadres of Big Mom firmly believe that no one in this sea can really defeat Big Mom. Even though Big Mom was stabbed hard in the heart by Plank just now, and a bullet was added. The children of Big Mom were extremely excited, and their eyes looking at Gangplank and others were filled with murderous intent. And those dark emperors who originally wanted to bite a big piece of fat in the world after Big Mom died. The weird smile on his face instantly dissipated and turned into the usual respect and friendliness towards Big Mom. But just when the many children of Big Mom were extremely excited, Katakori's expression turned solemn again. Having the ability to see the future may not be a blessing in many cases. Katakori's expression suddenly changed, and Big Mom, who was recovering from his injuries, spat out a large mouthful of blood. In Big Mom's body, the strange fire on Plank's scimitar has been quietly extinguished after burning a large amount of Big Mom's soul and vitality. But a strange and incomparable force is still entrenched in Big Mom's body, hindering the recovery of Big Mom's injuries. That's sepsis. Afterplank was equipped with Mortal Reminder. His attacks can severely damage the enemy's healing effect and recovery ability. Even though Big Mom has spent 5 years of his life recovering from his injuries. But only half of the vitality can truly exert a therapeutic effect. The wound on Big Mom's chest that had been gradually healing was torn again, and the heart was severely damaged and could only beat weakly. Coupled with the damaged internal organs, all of a sudden, Big Mom's eyes turned dark, and even his brain began to feel dizzy due to severe ischemia. Big Mom realized the seriousness of the problem and just wanted to spend a few more years of his life to completely recover from his injuries regardless of the cost. But in the next second, Gangplank's scimitar, wrapped in strange fire, was already attacking her again with a bullet. It's too late to recover from the injury. Big Mom endured the pain, drew out the Emperor's sword Napoleon, and slashed at Gangplank in front of him. As for the bullet, Big Mom, who is conscious and has recovered from the steel balloon, is not afraid of bullets, even powerful cannonballs. Then, a blood flower splashed out from Big Mom's chest again. Big Mom's tall body. At the moment of extreme confrontation between the Emperor's sword Napoleon and the scimitar in Gangplank's hands, he kept retreating. In addition to the Mortal Reminder, Gangplank is also equipped with the Dominic Lord's Salute, an armor-piercing artifact. What he likes to deal with the most is those enemies who think they are tough enough. And Big Mom, which was hit hard, has lost the combat power it had in its heyday. Seeing Big Mom retreating under Gangplank's attack, with blood splattering from time to time, countless people present suddenly widened their eyes. They were able to cope with being severely injured by a sneak attack, but directly suppressing one of the 4 emperors in a head-on battle. Even the injured 4 emperors still shocked countless people. As a new king of the sea about to be born. This is really big news. Morgans was extremely excited, while the other Dark Emperors watched the showdown between Gangplank and Big Mom without any intention of intervening. They are just Big Mom's guests, not Big Mom's thugs. What's more, taking action hastily before determining who is the real winner is undoubtedly causing huge trouble for oneself. Even if the battle between the top powerhouses in the sea can determine the outcome, it is generally difficult to completely determine life and death. Unless he can't run away or has a reason to fight to the death, if the top player in the pirate world who can do several sit-ups per person really wants to run away, it will be difficult for a strong player at the same level to stop him. The Dark Emperors can stand by and watch, but Big Mom's children cannot sit back and watch Big Mom fall behind. This is Cake Island, the base camp of the Big Mom pirates. Hurry up and help Mom. After Katakuri finished speaking, he waved his hand, and the jet black wave of glutinous rice immediately rushed towards Gangplank. Behind him, Perospero, Baron Smoothie and other powerful members of the Big Mom pirates also rushed towards Gangplank. There are so many ants that they can kill an elephant. I really want Katakuri, Smoothie and other strong men to swarm them. Give Big Mom a chance to fully recover from her injuries. This battle may become extremely difficult. But Big Mom has his children and cadres. Gangplank also has the help of Grogus and Bloodport-haunted Pike, as well as his ship. At the port of Cake Island, we still don't know what happened to Cake Castle. The 5,000 pirates of the Gangplank pirates are confronting Cracker, one of the 3 desert generals, and a large number of Homit's soldiers led by Owen Daifuku. It was extremely surprising to find that Plank's battleship Abyss quietly stretched out all its cannons. Then, they continued to pour out artillery fire crazily in the direction of the Cake Castle. It's time to flatten the barrel. With a loud bang, Grogus threw the wine barrel that he almost never left his body with force. The huge shock wave blew up the Big Mom children who rushed forward. Grogus carefully prepared wine. After the barrel exploded, a raging sea of fire rose up, blocking the way of Big Mom's many children. The figure of Blood Harbor Ghost Pike quietly disappeared into the void when the wine barrel exploded. But the children of Big Mom who tried to cross the sea of fire from the air would always be pulled back to the ground by the bone-penetrating spikes that suddenly stretched out when they were about to cross the sea of fire. You guys go around and help Mom. I'll deal with them. Katakuri said coldly, then jumped up suddenly, and after avoiding the bone-piercing spikes that quietly protruded from the void, he landed directly in front of Grogus. Want a drink? Gragas, the wine barrel, burped, held the last glass of wine in his hand, and raised the glass to Katakuri. After you die, I will definitely drink to your heart's content. Now, go to hell. With a cold face, Katakuri flipped it over and took out his trident, Earth Dragon. Then, without saying a word, he directly waved the Earth Dragon in his hand and stabbed Gragas hard. Gragas' left hand instantly turned black, and he punched Katakuri's Earth Dragon fiercely, leaving a deep wound. He drank the glass of wine in his right hand without any care. Don't let the last glass go to waste. Gragas burped, and the wound on his left hand began to heal quickly. As far as armament hockey is concerned, Gragas is still no match for Katakuri. But when it comes to recovery ability, Gragas, who has a special bloodline, is comparable to the 4 emperors in the world of pirates. Katakuri looked at Gragas's rapidly recovering arm, his eyes turned cold, and he swung the Earth Dragon in his hand, directly stabbing Gragas' heart. He did not believe that after his heart was pierced, Gragas could still recover like his mother. The trident's blade carried a fatal danger, flashing with dark light, and stabbed Gragas' heart heavily. But just when he was about to hit Gragas' chest, Katakuri directly retracted the Earth Dragon and swung it to the right. With a stabbing sound, the trident Earth Dragon in Katakuri's hand and the bone-penetrating spike in the hand of Blood Harbor Ghost Pike collided with countless sparks. Gragas never fights alone. In the firelight, behind Gragas, the figure of Blood Harbor Ghost Pike slowly emerged in the void. On the other side, Perospero, Smoothie and others have led many cadres of the Big Mom pirates to bypass the Sea of Fire. But just when they wanted to assist Big Mom in attacking Gangplank, countless shells, like raindrops, instantly covered the sky. Take a bath in the shells. In the blood and fire, Gangplank laughed wildly, with the pistol and scimitar in his hands, never stopping for a moment. The septic bullets spattered little sparks on Big Mom's body from time to time, and the scimitar wrapped with faint blue flames. Moreover, every time it collides with the Napoleon piece in Big Mom's hand, Napoleon and Big Mom will let out painful wails from time to time. Plank's body instantly turned into a deep blue ghost in the rain of artillery fire. After obtaining the ghost captain's skin, this was the first time that Gangplank fully used the mysterious power that the ghost skin brought to him. The power of the ghost and the power of the soul fruit collide with each other. Every time they fight, the souls of Big Mom and Napoleon gradually disappeared like smoke. Big Mom continued to retreat under the full force of Gangplank's scimitar. Although the cannonballs raining down could not cause much damage to Big Mom. But it made Big Mom's injuries, which he had never recovered from, become even more serious. Even her attacks and footsteps began to slow down under the bombardment of countless cannonballs. But with his ghostly body, Gangplank's attacks became faster and more powerful, despite being able to ignore artillery fire. If this continues, Big Mom's defeat is certain. Smoothie, Perospero and others were extremely anxious and wanted to rush forward to attack Gangplank, at least to buy some time for Big Mom to recover. But in the continuous fierce artillery fire, except for Smoothie and Perospero, there are very few capable cadres who can continue to move forward with the fierce artillery fire. A large number of Big Mom's weak children and ordinary cadres could only flee in confusion amid the rain of steel dropped by countless shells. Big Mom's injuries became more serious, and her expression became more ferocious. Her soul continued to escape under the power of Gangplank's ghost. Let her sanity and lifespan continue to disappear. Gangplank's ghost power can directly attack the soul. But Big Mom never thought of giving in like this. Big Mom's wide eyes were flashing with a strange red light, and his bloody mouth covered with thick lipstick was also howling with great rage. How can it be? There cannot be 2 devil fruits with the same abilities in this world. I am the Queen of Souls. Life or stay. One of Big Mom's special moves, the Soul Spell, begins to activate. It has appeared. Auntie's Soul Spell can make the soul face the fear of death. As long as there is the slightest fear of Auntie in the heart, the soul will be taken away directly. But, facing a guy like that, can the Soul Spell really work? Morgans faced the sparse artillery fire at the edge and kept pressing the camera phone in his hand. As the king of paparazzi, he is professional when it comes to making news. Paparazzi are never afraid of danger. Do not make jokes. Do you think I'd be afraid of losers? Lousy as Plank, the ocean disaster Plank. Faced with Big Mom's soul spell, Gangplank showed no fear. His increasingly powerful pistol and machete have already told Big Mom the answer. The soul spell was useless. Big Mom's soul continued to escape, his eyes were blood red, and his expression became more and more ferocious. Under Plank's series of attacks, he was retreating steadily. Not to mention consuming his own soul to heal his injuries, even using the soul spell again, or even activating the Napoleon in his hand, gradually became weak. The prerequisite for the soul fruit to play a huge role is that it must have enough souls. But now, Big Mom's soul is running out. And at this moment, Smoothie, Perospero, Baron Eggman, and Snag, who had not yet become generals at this time, but already possessed extraordinary strength. Finally resisting the falling artillery fire, we successfully arrived at the battlefield of Big Mom and Gangplank. Mom, let's help you. This is the most top-notch battle on the sea. However, Smoothie and others, who have at least the combat power of the elite vice admiral of the headquarters, are barely qualified to participate in the battle. Become a mummy for me. Smoothie swung an extremely sharp sword energy at Gangplank. Wherever the sword energy passed, even the cannonballs falling from the sky were struck. Some of the molten iron was also squeezed out by Smoothie's sword energy, and it became much shriveled. Smoothie is a true juicer. Whether it is lava or pig iron, she can squeeze it until it dries up and withers. It is even easier to exploit people. Smoothie took the lead, followed closely by Perospero and others. The huge golden iron maiden keeps moving forward, intending to engulf Plank directly. The big knife in Snag's hand and Baron Eggman's legs flying like windmills followed closely behind, hitting Gangplank's head hard. 4 cadres of the Big Mom pirates teamed up to attack Gangplank. The Shadow Stream Lords Jia and Tai Lung, who were watching the battle in the distance, quietly grasped the sharp blades in their hands, ready to rescue at any time. A transparent blue bird in the void was also gently fluttering its wings at this time, always ready to let the world see the power of the storm. But, no need. This is a showdown between the overlords of the sea. This battle will determine the birth of a new king of the sea. Plank didn't need Zed and others to expose themselves and intervene. After draining countless cannonballs, Smoothie's terrifying sword energy is about to come. Perospero's Candy Virgin, which is also carrying a large number of cannonballs, has opened its huge mouth full of spikes. Snag's broadsword flashed with sharp cold light, and dark light flowed on Baron Eggman's legs. But at this moment, a terrifying shock wave suddenly spread out from Plank's body. Gangplank's Conqueror's Haki, which was almost comparable to 4 Emperors, exploded violently, instantly disrupting the joint attack plan of Smoothie and others. As a former pirate king, Gangplank now possesses S-level combat power. After learning the principle of Conqueror's Haki, there's no reason why Conqueror's Haki can't be awakened. In fact, the growth limit of his Conqueror's Haki may exceed that of 4 Emperors. In the world of Valoran, he is the only pirate king. Gangplank's Conqueror's Haki broke out, and countless ordinary guests at the Cake Castle who had fainted because of Big Mom's terrifying screams. It was not easy to wake up in a daze due to the fierce battle. As a result, the next second after enduring Gangplank's Conqueror's Haki, he collapsed instantly. They are tragic. Many weak guests have been directly killed by the aftermath of the battle while they were sleeping. Big Mom's tea party was a journey from hell. For those ordinary guests, Big Mom and Gangplank are hell. Conqueror's Haki erupted. Smoothie and the others were slightly startled, and then Gangplank's eyes flashed. He turned slightly sideways and directly avoided Smoothie's sword energy. With another blow, Perospero's Candy Virgin was cut in half, leaving it to gradually melt in the flames and gunfire. Faced with Snag's sword and Baron Eggman's kicking skills, Gangplank did not dodge. Just by moving himself forward into Ghost Hollow, he directly ignored the attacks of Snag and Baron Egg. Then he fired 2 shots at random, leaving a bloody hole in Snag's body and directly beating Baron Eggy into an egg yolk form. Baron Eggman, Snag, even Smoothie, Perospero and others are all unworthy of being Gangplank's enemies. Plank always has only one enemy. That is, 4 Emperors, Big Mom. Easily solving the siege of Smoothie and others, Gangplank also took advantage of the moment when Smoothie and others were temporarily distracted due to Conqueror's Haki. He suddenly waved the scimitar in his hand, with strange fire and profound ghost power, and slashed hard at Big Mom's head. It was already difficult for Big Mom to take the blow from Plank, but at this moment, due to the siege by Smoogie and others, Big Mom finally got a chance to breathe. A strange cold light appeared in his eyes for no reason. He opened his bloody mouth and shouted out the soul spell again. Life or stay. Only this time, the target of Big Mom's soul spell is no longer Gangplank, but all the creatures in the entire cake castle. I am the queen of all souls. What's mine, it's all mine. All souls are mine. Big Mom yelled crazily, and in the cake castle, countless people who were afraid of Big Mom. Immediately, his soul continued to escape outwards and merged into Big Mom's body. Among them, the ones with the most souls escaping turned out to be the children of Big Mom and the cadres. On the contrary, the ordinary guests who fainted due to Big Mom's terrifying screams and Gangplank's previous conquerors hockey were extremely lucky to escape Big Mom's soul spell at this time. They are tragic and lucky at the same time. Mom, what on earth are you doing? Katakuri, who was confronting Pike and Gragas, was trembling all over and extremely angry. In him, a little soul is also slowly escaping outward. Everyone in the Big Mom pirate group has a heartfelt fear of Big Mom, even Katakuri is no exception. But when looking at the souls that are constantly overflowing from the large number of Charlotte family children, as well as the frightened and desperate expressions, Katakuri's love for the Charlotte family instantly exceeded his fear of Big Mom. At this moment, Katakuri finally got rid of his fear of Big Mom. Mom, what on earth are you doing? Stop it immediately. Katakuri roared crazily at Big Mom, intending to wake up Big Mom at this time. But the lack of a large number of his own souls, and the pleasure of integrating countless external souls into his body, made Big Mom completely lose his mind at this time. In other words, it originates from the soul of Big Mom and inherits the selfish cruelty and tyranny of the Carmelite nun. In an instant, it occupied Big Mom's soul. Although Big Mom was able to kill a giant directly when he was 6 years old, and he could kill a violent bear with just one punch. But the former Big Mom was indeed a lovely and obedient child. After Wano Kuni lost his memory, Big Mom also showed his innocent and kind side. Until Big Mom swallowed Sister Carmel because she was too hungry, and also swallowed Sister Carmel's soul. From then on, the simple and kind-hearted Charlotte Linlin gradually became cruel and violent under the influence of the soul of the Carmelite nun, and step by step, she became the Emperor of the Sea. Big Mom ignored Katakuri's roar. She was affected by the remaining soul of the Carmelite nun. At this time, she just wanted to live, no matter what. The souls taken from her children and subordinates still have lifespan, and are constantly recovering from her own injuries. And inject new energy into Napoleon, who has become dilapidated and languid in her hands. The root of the soul fruit is countless souls. Big Mom, who had recovered from his injuries due to the integration of a large number of souls, before Gangplank's scimitar hit his head. He turned his head suddenly and allowed Gangplank's scimitar to cut a deep wound on his shoulder. The strange fire and profound ghost power caused Big Mom's flesh, blood, and soul to continue to burn and consume. But the countless souls that were still being integrated into Big Mom soon made the flames and ghosts injected into Big Mom's body stop burning. The power of the soul, there are so many Big Moms nowadays. Big news, big news. Big Mom is going to destroy the entire Big Mom pirate group with his own hands. No, are you going to kill everyone who came to the banquet this time? This is huge news. Morgan's eyes shone brightly, and he kept taking pictures. Then, he suddenly stopped, jumped high on the spot, and said in horror. No, I seem to be a guest at this banquet too. Big Mom. At this time, the soul of Morgan's was slowly escaping out. In other words, among all the people who are still awake in the cake castle, except Katakuri Stussy, Zed, Pike and Beryl. Even the shipping king Umid and the warehouse king Jaibatsun, who are also the kings of the dark world. As well as the king of loan sharks, Fukushinlu Field and others, they are all constantly releasing their souls to the outside world. The soul spell may not work for those who are not afraid of Big Mom. But for those strong people, even those who are at the disaster general level, once they are afraid of Big Mom, their souls will be easily taken away by Big Mom. Stussy is CP0, and behind her is the world government that has ruled the world for 800 years. Compared with God, Big Mom's terror seems so small and fragile. Stussy has never had a heartfelt fear of Big Mom. On the contrary, those dark kings who know the terrifying power of Big Mom because they often deal with Big Mom. Even if you are extremely powerful, you still have some fear in your heart. Big Mom. Sea Transport King Wumit gritted his teeth and glanced coldly at the soulless Stussy and Gia. His face was ashen and he walked straight towards Big Mom. At this time, the warehousing King G Bosun also drank all the wine in his hand, and then threw away the bottle. His eyes that were a little cloudy due to long-term drinking suddenly became clear, and he followed the Sea Transport King Umit without saying a word. They need to ask Big Mom for an explanation. Either stop absorbing their souls, or let Big Mom die. After all, they are also the kings of the dark world. Even if there is a fear of Big Mom hidden in their hearts, this does not mean that they have to wait for death. Hey, you are not afraid of Big Mom, so can I ask you to take action and wake me up or kill Big Mom? I have money, and I'm willing to pay a big price. The loss of the soul of the lone shark King Lufield is far more serious than that of Umid and others. However, due to his lack of strength, he did not directly follow the footsteps of shipping King Umid and others. Instead, they huddled in front of Stussy and Zed, trying to use big offers to encourage Stussy and Zed to take action. Hehehehe. Stussy covered her mouth and chuckled. She glanced solemnly at Zed beside her, who was not afraid of Big Mom, and said tentatively, I don't dare to face Linlin. But our new friend is the world's top killer. I just don't know how much it will cost to hire him. I am not afraid of Big Mom because I have the world government behind me, so what is the reason for Shadowstream's calamity? Is it because I don't know Big Mom, or is it because I am strong enough? In other words, will the Valoran family behind Shadowstream be more terrifying than Big Mom? The lone shark King Lufield looked at the expressionless Zed, and began to think about what kind of big price he should pay to lure the Zed who had just been offended by him, and face the 4 emperors. On the other side, Katakuri saw that Big Mom never stopped devouring the souls of his children, and looked at the countless Charlotte family members wailing and screaming. Finally, he couldn't restrain the anger in his heart, and threw away the pike in the wine barrel. He grabbed the trident in his hand and hit Big Mom hard. Mom, I'm going to wake you up. Stop it. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.